A moment of silence is on.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve that or a second to approve Treasurer Creighton's agenda changes? Can I second? I second.
I don't know if my mic's on. Let the record reflect that President Robinson has entered the building. I would like to thank Vice President Bowens for chairing in my absence and apologize to the board and the members of the public for my tardiness. I don't get off until 5:30, so I make it here as soon as I can. So the motion has been made and supported to approve the agenda with the amendment of a moment of silence after review of board norms
And also,
To remove H2.
and the removal of staff report H2. It was made by Treasurer Creighton and supported by Vice President Bowens. Questions, comments, or concerns? The only question I have is, Treasurer Creighton, will you do us the honor of leading the moment of silence?
Sure.
All right. No other questions?
President Robinson,
You have the floor.
I am curious as to purposes of the H2. Can you all hear me?
The mic seemed to be a little bit lower. I heard her well enough. She was asking for clarification from Treasurer Creighton as to the purpose of removing staff report H2.
My apologies and good catch, trustee Gavin. Actually, we don't need to remove H2. I was not aware, or made aware by the superintendent that there were two items. One item we talked about in human resources, the first item. The second position is not been created, and so we did not hear about that. And so Dr. Buss has requested to go ahead and remove that until we work on the logistics of that.
So you are essentially not wanting to remove staff report H2 fully, but wanting to remove the clerk position in
Yes,
staff
sir.
report
Yes,
H2?
ma'am. Mhm.
Okay, so Treasurer Creighton has clarified the amendment to the agenda simply includes a moment of silence after review of board norms and an edit to staff report H2 to remove the clerk notation. Trustee Bowens, Vice President Bowens, will you support that amendment?
yes.
All right. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none. Liz, in the absence of Secretary Triplett, can you please call the vote? Yes.
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 All right, thank you. Next on the agenda, we have review of board norms, the Board of Education norms for Benton Harbor area schools. We will treat each other with respect. We will listen to learn. We will refrain from side conversations. We will use our time wisely, starting and ending our meetings on time. We will challenge ideas, not people. We will ask questions when in doubt. There will be no surprises at the board table. We will practice the 7 norms of collaboration. Those norms of collaboration are pausing, paraphrasing, posing questions, putting ideas on the table, providing data, paying attention to self and others, and presuming positive intentions. Next on the agenda is public comment on agenda items. Is there anyone here who is present for public comment on agenda items? Hearing none, we'll proceed. Next, we have approval of the meeting.
Hold on a second, sorry.
Thank you. Next, we have a moment of silence, which will be led by Treasurer Creighton.
At this time, I ask everyone to please stand as we do a moment of silence for Coach Harvey. Coach Lou Harvey, was a district employee and coach here in Benton Harbor for about 40 years. And he passed away about a week ago, and his services were held last Saturday. And so at this time, we just ask everyone to stand to do a moment of silence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Treasurer Creighton. Next on the agenda, we have approval of the meeting minutes. The meeting minutes that we are approving are work session 10/3/2023. And I believe Liz has provided you all with the slight changes that were noticed by Trustee Gavin. Is that correct, Liz?
Yes.
Okay. We are also approving regular session 10/10/2023 and closed session 10/10/2023. At this particular time, I ask, is there a motion to approve the minutes as noted? Is there a second or support?
I would like to support with at first glance, I do see a typo. And I can provide Liz that typo, but I support.
All right. Any questions, comments, or concerns? The motion has been made by Raquel Martin and supported by Treasurer Creighton with notation of a typo that she will clarify with Liz. If there's no further questions or concerns, I ask that Liz please call the vote for approval of meeting minutes, work session 10/3/2023, regular session 10/10/2023, and closed session 10/10/2023. Yes.
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 All right, so next on the agenda is board business. As a reminder, effective 9/13/2022, all comments from the Board of Education will be limited to 2 minutes per trustee per topic. First up on our agenda for our item of business is State Representative Joy Andrews. He is going to be providing us with an update. And I will not steal his thunder as it relates to the debt relief, but I'll allow him to go into that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is that on?
All right, now it's on. Cool. Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Superintendent, and members of the board for allowing me to present tonight. We have had a very productive year in Lansing, and as the chair alluded to, I won't bury the lead, but very excited, proud to announce that we, as of
Pause for 1 second until
Sorry.
we can get the. Okay, you may proceed.
all good. All right, a little bit of a dramatic pause. Why not? That as of the end of session this month, we officially forgave the school debt for Benton Harbor High School school systems. The approximately $12 million that had been strapped to the school over a decade ago during emergency management when school was in crisis is gone. There was also debt forgiveness done for several other communities in the state that faced similar adversity. School systems in Pontiac, Muskegon Heights, Inkster, which was dissolved as a result of the debt burden that was put on it. And a few others. And this, for me, was my number one priority coming in. And as soon as I've conveyed to a few of you, as soon as I found out we had a Democratic trifecta, the very first thing I asked the speaker was if we could forgive the school debt, knowing that we had all these relief funds available to us. And he asked, approximately what the dollar amount was. And I told him, and he said, yeah, I think we can do that. It took a few months longer than I would have liked, but the important thing is the debt's been relieved, and knowing moving forward what this allows the school to do. Dr. Butts, you and I have had conversations about this, but the investment potential this opens up for the Benton Harbor school system, over $500,000 a year was going to service this debt, money that can now be used for teacher salaries, for renovations to the building. In addition to the debt forgiveness, we also expanded the education budget dramatically this year. I believe over $1.5 million in new funds for schools. And this was budget wide, so all of our school districts are enjoying an increase. But again, $1.5 million plus $500,000, $2 million extra dollars a year. What that can mean to the future of the school system and the students here. We also expanded school breakfasts and lunches, so that's universally free and paid for now. Something that I know many students here take advantage of. Also proud of what we've been able to accomplish for our teachers, restoring bargaining rights for our teachers so that they can, argue for good contracts, which is critical to retaining our teachers in our school systems. Also revising teacher evaluations that I know has been a particularly unfair burden on teachers in the Benton Harbor school system over the years. I think we've done something that strangely has been rare in Lansing, and that is that we put teachers in charge of our education committees. Both policy education committees in the House and the Senate and the budget committees for education K through 12 are headed up by former teachers. And I think that what you're seeing here is the result of that decision. We're seeing education policy that puts our schools and our children first. And that has been, I think, kind of the standard for everything that we've done on the education front this year. I want to say that this is by far not the last thing that I plan to do for the schools here. And as I've conveyed to many of you when we've talked, my hope is that the debt forgiveness can be the start of something. That, you know, in the words coined by Trustee Elnora Gavin, that this can be a fresh start. And we can look for the future of Benton Harbor schools now and providing the world-class education that the students here deserve. So I look forward to continuing the conversation with members of this board and yourself, Dr. Butts, about what that looks like and how the state can continue providing support for Benton Harbor schools so that we can make the most of the opportunity that's in front of us. If I'm allowed, I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
So before I make any statement, I would like to defer the floor to our treasurer to see if she has any comment that she would like to make as it relates to the debt relief.
I do have a comment, and so if you could give me an opportunity to pull it up, because I did actually. So, and then you can come back to that.
All right. Any questions or comments from the Board of Education? Trustee Gavin.
Thank you, President Robinson. Can you all hear me okay? Seems like my mic is not.
It's on.
I just need to speak up. I just want to thank you, Rep. Joey Andrews, for keeping your word. It's such a refreshing distinction to have a representative who represents Benton Harbor and who thinks about us. And I want to thank everybody who has, worked towards this. There's no one person to thank, but you were in the seat and you could have ignored us. You could have, focused on some other things, but you took that seat, you took that spot, and you made sure that you addressed a major issue that we've been fighting for over 4 years. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate you just being true to your word. That means a lot. Elections matter. And I'm glad that this one paid off, not just for Benton Harbor area schools, but for a lot of school districts like us that have been cash strapped and serve students who need us to be reinvesting in their education. So thank you so much for that.
I appreciate that. And I mean, it's a promise I made 4 years ago. And, that promises to me are not breakable. So and just knowing how much the school system's been through, previous superintendents, teachers, and the thing that's always driven me so crazy about all this is that when you would talk about the school debt to some of our previous representatives in Lansing, they always talked about it as if it was some sort of responsibility issue that, the school just has to be responsible for its debt. And it always galled me because on some level, what you're basically saying is every generation of students needs to pay for past mistakes, that were inflicted on them against, the will of the community at the time. And that's always what this has been about at a fundamental level is what are we doing for the students coming through this system and some notion of, whatever that is about responsibility, meaning that every graduating class has to deal with those burdens and accept a lower standard just was never acceptable to me.
Trustee Raquel Martin.
Yes, I'd like to thank you also for your due diligence for making sure that we were forgiven of that debt. And I also look forward to hearing about and supporting the other pro initiatives for education. I know there's other things down the pike. We found out this in our last leadership conference from Jennifer Smith, who goes to the Capitol, the things that are in place for education. One thing I would like to say, I'll put in a plug. I'd like to see what funding we could get for new facilities.
That is among the things that I've discussed with Dr. Butts, and I think is probably on everybody's minds here is, the building we're in now is a historic building that has, I think, an incalculable value to the community, but it also, because obvious to everybody that the building is old and it needs modernizing and work. And I hope that that's a discussion we can have about how do we bring these properties up to a level that, the kids deserve and that is on the same level as our surrounding school districts are on. and how do we also do that while preserving the history and the importance of buildings like this to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Trustee Bowen.
First off, I want to say thank you. I follow you on Twitter, and I also can text you, and I want to say thank you. But, you know, we as a board also thanks Trustee Gavin for her persistence and perseverance in lobbying this effort. So thank you on that. One of my questions for you is, what about charter schools? And I don't want to put you on the hot seat, but if you look at the demographics in Benton Harbor and you look at the state test scores, some of these schools are not doing better than us academically. However, when we look at the brain drain and the student count number, they're going to these schools. What can we do as you being our state representative to fix that issue?
Yeah,
I'm not saying put nobody out of business or anything.
No. And, you know, I mean, this is a complicated issue. I mean, you know, the genie got out of the bottle a long time ago, and these charter schools they're in existence, and there's parents sending their kids to them. And it's not just the charter schools either. I mean, you know, the school of choice, I think in general, has not been good for communities like Benton Harbor. You know, we're seeing a lot of the most talented kids in the school district go to other schools. Now, my hope is that by investing in the school system here and making it, you know, a more attractive place to send your kids, that we can draw some of those kids back in. I think that that's always the best solution. But there is some work going on in Lansing. The Education Committee is working on better accountability standards for charter schools, basically to say to them, okay, you have a charter, you're operating, but if you're going to be, you know, educating kids, then you need to meet some of the same standards, if not all the same standards that public schools have to meet, which currently isn't always the case. And particularly the for-profit charters that aren't board managed. We have a board managed charter school in Benton Township, Countryside, which serves its purpose in a way that's very similar to a public school. But there are other charters that are run by for-profit management companies. And those are the ones that I think we're trying to make sure are living up to the expectation in front of them of providing quality educations. And we need to say to them that, look, if you're not providing a quality education, if you're not meeting the same types of testing standards that we put on public schools, then there has to be some consequence for that, right? And so I think that's the direction that we're starting to head in with this, is to, you know, set better standards in place, make everybody follow the same kinds of rules. And I think we'll start to see some of the bad actors in the system fall away. And then we can reassess at that point. But it is difficult right now because, and I learned this, you know, the hard way, talking to parents, that, you know, parents just want to send their kids to school where they think they're going to get the best education. And I think a lot of parents in the community here wish they were sending their kids to Benton Harbor schools, but feel that they can't. And I don't want them to feel ashamed for that decision, because every parent should do what's best for their child. But we've created a system that puts them in this position to make choices like this, and we have to fix that. You know, we have to fix that.
Thank you, Secretary Triplett. I know you just stepped in. Did you have any comment or question for Representative Andrews?
Well, first of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to ask you all, forgive me. I have a sister who's in the hospital, and so I had to take care of some business. But I do want to take this opportunity to thank you for standing strong in your resolve as it relates to Benton Harbor area schools. I am a tiger, and we are predators, never the prey, for sure. We've been praying, I've been praying that not only this day would come, but that I've always prayed for Benton Harbor High School. And so, you know, in just to piggyback off of Vice President Bowens and what have you, one thing that as our representative, you know, it's good to know that we got somebody up there fighting. And it, you know, because people, you know, oftentimes I've said this to the board, you know, we get elected, but we forget about the people who went out and voted. And I never forgot about the people that voted for me, because they voted during a pandemic. Mm-hmm. They came out and voted at the height of COVID. And so they are always in my thoughts, always in my prayers, and always in my gratitude for Benton Harbor area schools with those charter schools and all those different things. We just got back from the Michigan Association of School Boards Conference this past weekend. And so we had an opportunity to talk with school district from Inkster, which lost their entire school district. And so, you know, it was about 3 or 4 of us that were there that the debt, you know, that received this debt relief. And so I just, again, just appreciate you and what you're doing for Benton Harbor areas, for our region. And I'm looking forward to working with you. And I did vote for you.
I appreciate that. I want to say I appreciate how much of your life you've given to the schools here. I mean, your dedication speaks through your actions. I do, you know, I remember 2020 and 2019, and you know, Inkster is a really good example to bring up because Inkster lost their school system. Their community was divided between 4 different school districts.
Yes.
And their debt was not forgiven. So their children were being split between 4 different school systems, and their taxes still had payments for the debt that they owed. So you had families paying for a debt for a school that no longer existed.
Mhm.
And I think back to where we were in 2019 when the threat of closure was on the table. And I mean, we would have seen basically the exact same thing potentially happen here in Benton Harbor, that the school would have been, you know, divided. We would have had kids going off to different districts. And I mean, you lose the core identity of your community when you lose your schools.
Almost definitely.
So I'm hopeful that we can look at 2019 as the low point and that everything is uphill from here. And that's, you know, what I'm hoping to work towards.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And so now I'm going to give the floor to Treasurer Creighton. The night that the debt relief occurred, it was kind of quicker than we expected. Trustee Gavin and I were working on a resolution to kind of get started and saying, you know, let's get the relief already. We were trying to slide in strong in the last minute, and it passed before we anticipated. And so Treasurer Creighton actually had sent a statement that she wanted to be able to share with the public. However, we had already sent out a press release because we were being pulled in so many different directions because the media likes to be the first one to report. But I do want to give you an opportunity to share your statement with the public.
Thank you. Actually, I'm not going to share it right now, but I can definitely email it to you.
Okay.
Because I think I just want to be conversational because of some things that you said. So first, I want to say that I do appreciate you so much. We did campaign, and you know, I know that we're nonpartisan, but on a personal level, it really warmed my heart truly because I remember campaigning a few years ago with you. But I think when I saw it come across the news, for me, it was definitely that visual of equity versus equality, right? And I think when you think about equity, right, you're giving people what they need, and equality is giving everyone the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I think for quite some time, you know, Benton Harbor has always been a community that was unique, especially in Southwest Michigan for several reasons, you know, and I think they're pretty obvious, right? And so, but one big one in poverty, obviously, is finance. And so I think the decision that you guys made was the 56 to 54.
Yep. Pretty good vote.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, you know, it was one of those things that, you know, God was definitely, you know, on our side. Right. And so he gave grace, but he also made sure that we got what we needed because I think trauma is real and is important. When we think about the barriers, right, that finance put on students and educators, and, you know, people call us at risk, but definitely poverty and barriers, right? Mm-hmm. So when we have those things and think about all of the trauma that has come with this debt, you know, all of the things that we were told that we could not do because of the debt, all of the opportunities that we missed out on because of this debt. And so this is history, really. And I don't think any of us really realize how traumatic this debt has been to Benton Harbor. It definitely was an anchor that was meant for us to sink. But with 56 of you guys who felt that it was important, you guys have helped us to make history. And so we want you to know that we have a CFO in place. Thank you for doing what it is that you said that you guys were going to do. We've also kind of put our money where our mouth is. We have a new CFO in place. She has a great team of finance people that is supporting that department. I've been the treasurer for 3 years, and I can confidently say, due to other debt relief and forgiveness from the CARES Act, we received a lot of money, and we've been fully transparent with how we spent it. But we've also been very intentional, so that we don't end up right in the same place. And so as we continue to put systems in place and make sure that we're being good stewards over the money, I think it's a testimony in itself. And so we're working really, really hard to make sure that we stay out of the red and we don't get close to it. Dr. Buss is working on plans to continue to properly staff the district and do what he needs to do. And so this board, and I'm going to put myself out there and say all 7 of us, is something that we can definitely agree on, that this debt forgiveness has definitely made our jobs a lot easier, and that we're doing all that we can do to make sure that we're making the best decisions for this community. A lot of times, the hard decisions, as a elected official, you can't make everyone happy, but if you can wholeheartedly believe that the decisions that you're making will benefit the greater good of the people, I think it's a job well done. And so thank you for all that you've done.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said since I've been here that at the end of the day, win or lose, as long as you do good things, then you got to be happy with the time you spend. So I mean, they can't take that away from you, right? But I do if I made a comment on just a couple things there. I think, one testament to the rescue funds doing what they were designed to do, the fact that these debts have been able to be forgiven, whether it came through, the state side use of it or your own use of it. So again, just, that funding getting where it needed to get and doing what it needed to do. But 2 things in particular that you touched on that I wanted to comment on. I said this when I gave my floor speech on the debt forgiveness too, but an education is the one thing nobody can take away from you once you have it. Mm-hmm. And so providing a high quality education for kids, particularly in a community like Benton Harbor, that is the best chance we can give kids to pull themselves up and make a better life for themselves. And denying them that education is the weight around the neck that you talked about. It's holding them back. It's ensuring that they never get that chance. And so I believe so much that investing in our schools is the best way that we can elevate the community. And to your point about, the sense in the community, I know knocking doors, the feeling that I got from so many people in this community that really came down to feeling like nobody was there for them. And it's hard to say that they're wrong. I mean, prior to, this recent election, and I hope we can demonstrate otherwise now, our representatives never stepped a foot in Benton Harbor. I mean, they didn't attend meetings. They weren't listening to the people they represented in the community here. And when you go through, 60 years of never being listened to, it's hard not to feel like the system doesn't work for you. And I'm really hoping that with, not just this, but other things that we're working on, that we're, hopefully able to send a message to people living in the community here that their voices do matter, their vote does matter, and we can fight for better.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I just wanted to give everyone an opportunity to provide feedback or a response as it relates to the debt relief, but also to be able to speak directly to you. I was able to assist, of course, in the press release. So my statement has already been printed. Everyone's aware of it, but the full board had not had an opportunity to be heard. And so I wanted to ensure that you were able to come before us to give them that opportunity, but to also give us the updates that you have. You and I have been in the trenches together.
Yes.
So I am extremely excited to see where we started and where you are now. When we first sat down at our first coffee meeting, I told you what I used to think of you.
Yeah.
And I told you that I realized that you're just extremely smart and knowledgeable on what you're talking about. And I realized that in that conversation, and I'm so proud of the growth that I've seen in you, and the fact that you didn't get where you were and forget about Benton Harbor area schools. And that means more to me than you could ever understand. So I did get an opportunity to call you that night, but I wanted to express my gratitude and how sincerely proud of you I am in front of everyone. So thank you.
I very much appreciate that.
And you are welcome to come back if there's anything pertinent to education that you have to give us updates in the future. So thank
There will
you.
be plenty of those.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, so we're gonna move right along. Next on the agenda is recognition of the business office. So if you have attended either of our meetings this year, you've heard us give praise to our finance department, who essentially operated in the absence of a CFO, I think until about September. Yes. Until September, our finance committee, as well as our finance office, were navigating with the assistance and support of our superintendent, who went and got his credentials to be able to lead in that manner. But then we've since invited Molly on. I know Angela Carter has joined our team as well. And so I wanted to ensure that the Board of Education in Benton Harbor Area Schools was able to acknowledge you all fully beyond a comment. So I did ask that the business office join us for a special presentation. So I am going to pass the mic to Dr. Butt so that he can read the certificates. And then he is going to read up the names of the individuals that we are acknowledging. And there will be a surprise in the acknowledgements, but I will allow him to let that surprise go.
Thank you, Madam President. On each certificate, it is a certificate of appreciation, and it's presented to each of you with a congratulations on receiving this certificate for your exceptional financial acumen and business practice in assisting the Benton Harbor Area School Business Office during leadership transition. So this time, if you come up, please, to receive your certificates.
So you can call their names and then everyone can come up. Okay.
The certificate recipients are Miss Angela Carter, Miss Celia Otero Rios. Mr. Brian Lance, he's not here tonight. And also to our new CFO, Miss Molly Vincent.
Madam President,
Before you get started.
Has more.
I was just going to ask if we could also take a picture.
Yes.
Just a second before you take a picture, because I got another little surprise for you. Also, in doing such, not only have we had an amazing business office team to help me navigate these waters, as in the absence of a CFO, we had an amazing finance team, finance committee that I would also like to recognize tonight. And so with that being said, our treasurer, Miss Angel Creighton, if you please come up. Miss Angela Doyle, she's not here tonight. And Miss Stephanie Rockett Martin.
So I thought that it would be impossible to acknowledge the business office without acknowledging the work of the committee. So I snuck you all certificates in as well. She didn't get a certificate.
Oh, I thought they were getting the day off or something.
Yeah, we should probably be.
For the break. Come down a little bit to the corner.
So if you could get a picture of the working first, and then we'll take a picture with them.
Knock him down. Let me come down. Forward.
It's not. All right, so I'd like to thank the members of the public for their patience in allowing us to provide those presentations as well as taking our picture. I'm extremely proud of everyone that was recognized. We appreciate you. Too often in organizations, you show up, you do a job, you get paid for it, but people rarely tell you thank you for the efforts and labor that comes out of your employment. So I did want to make sure that we let our staff know that we do appreciate your efforts as well as our committee. We're going to move right along with committee reports. And
C2A.
it is extremely timely, given that we've had amazing updates regarding the relief as well as our recognition of the business office. We're going to stay in that same vein and pass the mic over to our finance chair, Treasurer Creighton.
Madam President,
You have the floor.
can I make a motion to do a 1-minute recess to take a picture with state rep so that we can have it for our archives?
Yes, I have no objection. So we're going to take a brief recess
1 minute.
to allow us to. Thank you. I'm going to take a brief recess to allow us to take a picture with Representative Andrew.
Thank you.
No, we were taking just a recess for that.
You go ahead and do it. Just go ahead and do it. Okay. I will.
Madam President,
You have the floor. We're returning to session effective 6:15. Treasurer Creighton?
yes, Madam President, I would like to call for a motion to I would like to make a motion, I'm sorry, to make an amendment to the agenda.
Can you note the amendment?
Yes, under student services, I would like to move master facility plan presentation by C2AE and Stat Tech.
Committee reports.
Yes, we do have some representatives in our audience and we would like for them to go ahead if they can so that they don't have to actually endure the entire agenda.
Wonderful idea. The motion has been made by Treasurer Creighton to move the master facility plan presentation up prior to committee reports. Is there a second or support?
Support.
The motion has been made by Treasurer Creighton and supported by Vice President Bowens. Questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, Secretary Triplett, can you please call the vote?
President Robinson.
Yes.
Vice President Bowen.
Yes.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Treasurer Creighton.
Yes,
Trustee Rocket Martin. Trustee Gavin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, motion carries. So next on the agenda, we would like to welcome up C2AE and Stantec to provide the master facility plan to the board.
Madam,
Yes, sir.
this is not the plan itself.
This is just a
Yeah, we're
presentation.
having them to present to the Board of Education so they get an opportunity for us to make a decision and as to what direction we want to go.
Thank you for noting that clarification. You have the floor.
Thank you. We're excited to be here tonight. My name is Steve Jerzyk. I'm with C2AE. We're architects and engineers working in the education market sector. We've partnered on behalf of Benton Harbor with Stantec, and I'll let
Hello all. My name is Travis Sage and I'm with Stantec. I'm one of our education practice leaders.
So several months ago, we started a conversation with Paul and Paul Corson and Dr. Butts and made a couple presentations throughout this, and they asked that we come down tonight and just share a little bit about our company and our intentions and how we can help you develop a master facilities plan for the district. So we're going to try to keep this to about 15 minutes, but then after that, ask a bunch of questions and more than happy to answer that. So C2AE Stantec, we've been doing this individually for a long time now, over 50 plus years individually, but we've also been partnered on projects together too and doing those successfully. So C2AE, we're based out of Lansing. I come out of the Grand Rapids office. So we're providing sort of like a more local knowledge of K-12 education. Stantec is a national firm with offices across the country. And they're bringing, as part of the team, they're going to be bringing a lot of that national design expertise, having worked with districts, urban districts across the country and successfully. Together, we've been partnered on $275 million worth of work, and we're continually finding opportunities where we can partner. Individually, we work on education projects, but there's certain projects where we feel it's, best that the team of us can work and provide a better solution for our clients. Hey, there we go.
So yes, thank you. So Steve mentioned that some of our current and ongoing work that we have done together, particularly here in West Michigan, and just wanted to take a moment to kind of share a couple of those examples. Number one here, this is a community recreation center for the Caledonia Community Schools up near Grand Rapids. This is in construction currently, and it's about a $24 million project. And contains a whole bunch of community services, including senior center and kid zones, and is in partnership with the local YMCA. Also, a key component of the project is an indoor natatorium, which includes both a splash area and lap area for the community use, as well as the competitive swim venue for the student athletes. Also, another project example, we were really pleased to recently have completed the 2015 bond program for Portage Public Schools, which included 2 new middle schools and 2 new natatoriums for that district as well. Wow. And in front of all of you, I do have to share that I am a Portage Central Mustang, so a little inter-conference competitiveness, but very familiar with Benton Harbor schools and proud to be a conference member with you.
Go Tigers.
I was going to ask, what was your record with us?
Let's pick our sports. So just as an example of what we do, 21st century learning environments is really what we specialize in. And more and more often, that really includes that hands-on education component. And key to that was the tech lab here at Portage Middle School. Part of what Steve was mentioning is our partnership allows us to really marry national education research along with local K-12 market expertise. And that competitive advantage that we're able to bring together allows us to deliver projects that are fiscally responsible and very responsive to individual school districts' needs, at the same time applying all of the pedagogies and understanding that we have for educational space design from across the country. Just some additional examples of some of the education environments that you see in modern 21st century learning environments. Our partnership also included athletic facilities, including the rebuild of McCamley Field here that you can see. And I think it's important to really recognize that a school district, as was mentioned earlier, really is the identity of the entire community. And that extends to all of the outreach programs and educational programs and co-curricular activities that the students will undertake and participate in. Go ahead. Track. And then, the natatoriums as well. So, which also serve for community swim functions. And I just wanted to kind of close and really, offer the opportunity to think about the history and what's important in a transformation that might come from a master facilities plan. And the opportunity to really explore the goals for that plan through this lens. And these are really our how we see approaching a master plan. Number one, it needs to be inspirational, okay? But it also has to be executable. A plan that can't be put into action is worthless. It sits on a shelf and it doesn't go anywhere. And it needs to be aspirational, but practical. And I think that kind of speaks for itself. Fundamental to all of our work, and particularly our work with many of the school districts here in the state of Michigan, is it needs to be transformational. Benton Harbor, as well as many of the school districts in this state, and I think the representative spoke to it. There's a sense of history, there's a time and place that is really meaningful to every district, and it's important that you really seek to find the value that exists in buildings like we're sitting in today, and really harness that for a future that can really transform what the educational experience is for your students.
Part of being executable and practical is making sure that there's a schedule that we can live with. We'll leave this PowerPoint with Paul. He's got a copy of this. But what's laid out here in front of you is the idea of how we can get from a kickoff meeting that could start right after the first of the year, get committees set up, and then verify. We're going to have to spend a little time verifying the existing conditions within the district. The 6-ish buildings you operate, the ones that you don't right now. Understanding those existing conditions, reviewing those with a steering committee that we would set up within your administration, and then confirm what the master plan goals are, and then really start with community engagement. And some of those ways that we can work with community engagement is we can look at focus groups, identify, if it's staff, administration, seniors, students, and obviously parents and teachers. But then also those people that maybe aren't engaged by this focus groups, we could send out community surveys, find out what's important to them, do that via, QR codes, Scantrons, everybody can do scan a QR code and you can get that community survey. Review that with the steering committee. And really, once we've committed to those focus groups and we've received some of that feedback, it's kind of the pink line there, but we can start working on some options that can be generated and that would be for the master plan here. And we can start with that about the end of focus groups, but really we're going to we would dive deep into that over the course of June, July, August. A lot of staff and students are gone away, but that's where, as architects, we can go back. We'll still continue to meet, but we can be working on generating those options. We're suggesting that perhaps sometime over that would be a good time to select a construction manager who might be involved in this process. And with all those options, there'll also be cost estimation. So good, better, best. Also along with that, good, better, best in terms of cost. So trying to wrap that up about the time school starts next fall. And then reviewing again with the steering committee, and then reviewing that again with the community. What is their feedback on the options that have been presented or that? And then from that feedback, we develop a preferred option. Somebody's going to pick, if there's option A, B, and C, A, B, or C might get selected, or some combination of A, B, and C. Develop that preferred option, and again, go out and survey the community. Can you support this? Does this include the things that we heard were your priorities, and that the staff and the board also feel that's priorities? And then develop that finalized preferred option. So it's about a 11-month, 12-month process to get through that. We don't want to rush it, but we also don't want to lose steam by taking too long. And we've heard that, the district has several facility assessments. So it's not assessments that you need a roadmap going forward. We provided a fee structure for pre-bond and master planning, and then the implementation of that should you choose to move forward with that. Take questions.
Secretary Triplett, you have the floor.
Yes, I wanted to say to the Board of Education, we've had 4 in our facility committee meeting. We had 3 or 4 different groups that presented to us. And so we, like you do in committees, we went through and used the process of elimination. We felt like we had identified the best to bring before our colleagues. And so in the presentations of what have you, we compared what we were looking for. We learned a lot, because when you talk about people oftentimes get the master plan confused with things that we're doing as it relates to facilities. The master plan includes the entire community. It will include bond issues. It will include several different things. And those are things that we talked about and requested and asked of them, could they do and how would they lead in this particular area? You know, I'm very serious about this because this ain't no joke. So we talked about going through, assessing our buildings, people, we don't want to tear them down, sell them, people want to buy them and all this stuff like that. That's not what this is a master plan. And so it talks about everything that would have to happen as it relates to our buildings that we are using. What direction do we want to go? Would it be feasible to look at the things that we're having here? We also took into consideration the things that we needed to do as it related to our furnaces and what have you, and being very strategic in making those recommendations so that when this plan, all of this stuff comes together. So I definitely, you know, we talked about it'll probably be a year process. We're talking about our school district is made up of 8 different municipalities. And oftentimes people just think of Benton Harbor proper. One of the largest municipalities of all in our school, it makes up our school district, is Benton Township. And so all of these leaders and as our superintendent is going to and being introduced to all these municipalities and what have you, that's a start. Because these are the people, you got farmers, you got people that pay taxes, that pay loads and loads of taxes. Some of their children do not go to our school. Some of their children, they're grown, they don't have children. And so when we think of it, I want everybody to think, I want you to open up your mind to something larger than where we are, because this is going to be some serious work, but we have to make sure not only that, you know, and we felt that this was the best company to bring before you. And because they really, really, really impressed us of the 4 that we saw, they really impressed us. And this also is the company that is working on our boiler. Okay, so they're working on our boilers. They'll be familiar. They will have some background information and know what it is. So when we get ready, if we ever have, and when we decide, not if, because we're going to do some things within Harbor Area School. And when we make that decision, what better would it be than to people who have already to partner with people who have already done some foundational work here in our school and know what, because the high school is the hub. This is the heart of the community. And so I just wanted to put that out there, that we did go through, we used the process of elimination, what we thought the best to bring before you all.
Madam President?
You have the floor.
Oh, me? Oh.
Yes.
I want to first off I would like to thank the chair of the facilities committee. Very grateful. I've been on this board for almost 3 years now, and this was one of my first asks when I joined the board. I've been on the facilities committee for I think 2 years, and then I was removed, not for anything bad, but just wanted to say thank you. I did sit in, I think, 2 or 3 presentations, and unfortunately, I don't think I sat in on your presentation, but it was good to really see a full circle moment where I'm a person that likes visuals. I like to know, although, you know, I'm not like a Portage fan or anything, I do appreciate that you know Benton Harbor at least enough where you've probably been here, you've been at our facilities. So it's great to even know that you've been working on our boilers. But I think, you know, all jokes aside, most importantly, you guys get it. You know, you understand education from a facility standpoint and how important it is. And I understand the things that you said from a finance standpoint and how important it is to be fiscally responsible, but to also have everything that you need, not to only plan, but to make sure that your plan gets feet. right? Or that's able to move and walk. And so I'm very grateful of that. Also really enjoyed looking at the pictures and I'm going to spend some time looking at this presentation because as an educator, it does help you to be able to see yourself, in a facility that's the same, facility, but that's new and it's remodeled and, doing well and is a nurturing environment. So I just want to say on that note that I'm really grateful and I want to see kind of what you guys do for other districts to help them to actually plan, because we know that those who, fail to plan to fail. And so how can we make sure that we use this plan to actually support it in our budget for the next coming years? So thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Creighton. Any other questions or comments from the board? I have two quick comments. I love the visual timeline. I got you, Gavin. Let me write you down. I didn't see her at first. I love the visual timeline. It's amazing to be able to have an idea of how long the process will take. I also love that there's multiple opportunities for community feedback because we can make the most amazing changes to the district feasible. But if the community is not in support of it, or we haven't had an opportunity to hear their voice, then what difference does it really make? And then I had a quick question for you. The construction manager that is determined, is that someone that is normally local? Is that someone that we would choose, or how does that process work?
I think what we're suggesting is there's a point in time where a construction manager should be brought on board. We can assist you with that process and help you develop a process for that selection. They're going to be contracted with you. They're not employees of us. So we just want to help you make the best choice for the district going forward. And that may be somebody who's local, maybe TBD.
Okay.
That's completely up to you.
I would just like to, in response to that, I know that we have some amazing individuals in our community who are trained and knowledgeable in this area. So I would like, and this is just kind of forward thinking, for the board to be open to the opportunities to actually award a project such as this to someone that is either in Benton Harbor or within Benton Harbor Area School District. That would be absolutely amazing. Trustee Gavin.
Can I add one
Yes.
response to that?
Yes.
Just to add a little bit of clarification. So the construction manager would be that entity that oversees all of the pre-construction activities, helps you engage all of those specialty subcontractors.
Okay.
One particular aspect of our partnership as a national practice that we're able to bring to the table as well is to help you. We have some specialists that also look at building a diverse and local supply chain network that would help you to pre-qualify all of those local subcontractors that you may want to reach out to. And that would allow them to ultimately meet all of those qualification requirements that you would need to have for them to participate in a state bond funded project as well. So it's an important component as we get further down the road to really think about, and also to engage with your construction manager to talk about how they can bring those subcontractors on board as well. So
thank you.
absolutely.
Trustee Gavin.
Thank you, Chair Robinson. One, thank you for your presentation. I'm a visual person, so I'm very, very grateful for the timeline and for the pictures, being able to envision what's possible here. And I love that you have our high school at the end. That's a really great touch. I just have a few questions. One, the slide that kind of has the fee structure, if you don't mind explaining that a little bit. And I like explanations as if I'm a fifth grader. So there's that. And then the other thing is, do you have experience? And I love the updated facilities, not against that at all, but just wondering if you also have experience with kind of maintaining and preserving the historic value while also upgrading everything on the inside, while also being able to work around students being present in the building while, or is this just a plan? Are you just working on the plan, or do you also have, I see implementation here. So it sounds like there you
go. And I'm actually going to start with part 3, which is the implementation part. So lots of the projects that we work on are renovation projects. And while it can be more efficient to do it in an unoccupied building, oftentimes they happen in occupied buildings. So again, with the construction and management firm, we'll work on systems and processes and review them with staff and administration so that student safety is prime, student and staff safety, ingress and egress is maintained. So we've always got a way for student and staff to get out, and they're clearly separated from the construction areas, and those are well defined. So yes, I'm anticipating maybe in the future you might be able to do a new building, but probably we're going to start out with some renovations, and that's going to probably happen because the summer season is getting so much shorter and shorter. It's probably going to happen while students are in the building. And so we'll work with the district and staff and administrators and your safety people to make sure that we've got that covered.
The one other aspect of that with the master plan that's really important is to understand the sequencing of projects. You can't move, you can't do work until you move out of one and back and forth and the dust. So the plan will certainly address that as well as we start to see what the vision is and where you want to aspire to with the plan. We'll look at the logistics of actually making all of that happen. And that actually will be a part of the costing as well, because there's cost implications to all of that, moving, shuffling, doing all of that sort of stuff as well.
When it comes to the fee structure, since most of these master plans generally end with development and going out for a bond, we talk about our fee structure here is broken down into pre-bond and implementation. We're sort of anticipating this is a likely outcome of the master plan. So for the pre-bond and the master planning, we do it on a time and materials basis, but we don't put any profit on top of that. This typically can run $50,000 to $75,000. There's a little bit that we're asking for per vote. If it goes to vote upfront to cover our expenses, immediate expenses, but the remainder of that is added to the implementation fee. And you'll see, depending on the size of a project that you might do, you can see what our percentage of that would be. So that the remaining pre-bond planning and the implementation fee, that's all lumped together and it's put in on the PQ application if you go through the state and do a qualified bond. So in the end, that design fee really gets paid for by bond funds, assuming a bond project. Or if you go sinking fund, it's paid for by a sinking fund.
So just follow up. Thank you. So for example, the 10 million to 14.9 million, 7% implementation. What does that mean exactly?
Cost of construction.
That's
Cost of construction.
That's the cost of construction.
Yeah. So if you,
I guess I'm confused because we don't know what we're constructing yet.
Yeah,
So I'm just trying to understand how that. Yeah.
Again, it can be confusing. Let me kind of walk you through step by step on this. So initially, to offset initial costs, we're asking for $10,000 up front. Okay. The fee for master planning and bond implementation services in total is anywhere between $50,000 and $75,000. Okay.
Gotcha.
So you paid 10,000 of that already, right?
Mm-hmm.
The remainder of that we hold. We accrue it in the account as it's spent, right, on a time and materials basis, but we don't charge the district for that until such time as the bond passes or two successive bond would fail or other funding mechanisms would, fail. So we look for the opportunity. If we are not successful in the first one, I should say our track record is immaculate on getting to successful bond issuances. But sometimes they do need to be retooled and readjusted as we get bond votes from responses from the community. We would do that again, and see that second vote through. At the time that it's successful and you make that application for those bond funds and the campaign passes, then you're going to have a cost of construction associated with all of the physical work. That is typically billed at a percentage of construction costs. So whether that bond through the master plan process, we identify as being $10 million, it would be 7% of that. If it's 65 million plus, it would be 5% of that. And those are put into that bond application with the state.
So it's a percentage charge based on how much we get
Yeah,
from the
how
bond
much
to
volume?
do
Yeah,
the work.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just real
Yeah.
quick, look like I got about 45 seconds. So, you said something about phases, because I know like some of the stuff that we're gonna need is just some upgrades and some renovations. And you said that these things are done in phases. So that means that we don't have to wait until we have everything to start on working on certain things.
Yeah.
Is that
So-
correct?
Yeah, so as we go through the master planning process, we also prioritize the needs that we find, through our conversations with you and all the stakeholder groups. We'll identify some immediate needs. We'll identify some things that you can do right away that will further the implementation of that master plan that you'd be able to execute on as we go through that exploration process together. What we don't want to have happen is to have you spend what I call good money after bad, right? So we want to make sure that we're looking forward and understanding where the ultimate outcome of the master plan is, so that we don't, allow you to make those steps in error as we move forward,
That
right?
sounds great. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
All right, any other questions? Vice President Bowens?
I've got two questions. Perfect example. We have several apartment complexes in our community. We used to have neighborhood schools. We don't anymore. Do you guys look at that, current growth trend, the density in this level is expected to boom? We would recommend doing that. Okay, and do you guys have any experience? I mean, you said you guys were successful in bonds, but here in Berrien County, Lakeshore, Coloma, Waterville, they've all tried to get bonds passed and they have not been successful. Have you worked with any of those agencies, and have you learned schools, and have you learned anything from those?
We haven't worked with any of those districts, but I would say in the end, what we need to find is the right question. What is the bond question that voters will support? And we don't know what that is today. I'm guessing that right question for Waterville, Coloma, Colbert, they may have not figured out that right question. I'm not exactly sure why. It may have been wrong because they didn't hear the community in terms of scope. It might have been wrong because they didn't like the dollar value of the overall side. It could have been wrong because it maybe included a millage increase. I don't know. But we got to do this master plan and come up with the right question to help you guys be successful.
Okay, thank you.
That's good.
Any other questions from the board? So I want to thank you all for coming and providing a great presentation. I feel comfortable. I thank the facilities committee for doing the legwork and combing through the presentations that you all received, and supporting Dr. Butts in the selection that he made to bring before the full board. As it stands, this was just a presentation so that we could hear from the company that Dr. Butts supports, and I anticipate that you plan to take a vote on it. Was it next month? Secretary Triplett, can you pull up to the mic?
I just wanted to verify from the facilities committee that we did this collectively.
Mm-hmm.
We had some very serious conversations about this, and I like I said, I kind of know our board, our superintendent, has a pulse, to, ear to the pulse. And we really did, Pete Corson, we went through sort of things that Vice President Bowens was asking, all of these things, the thing that Trustee Gavin was asking, we asked about it, from a historical perspective. We talked about all of that, what you're asking, and I'm so grateful that you all were given this opportunity. I just want us to also take into consideration now, we see, like you say, the visual of how long this process is. This is not something that happens overnight. We ask the same question as it related to bond. Who will help us? How will they help us? How will they lead us in this? Because I just want us to think larger. This is going to take, we talk about our community. We need our Representative Andrews at the table. We need the county commissioners. We need, that's from Benton Harbor, Ms. Yarbrough and Commissioner Pitchford. Mayor Muhammad, Supervisor Yates. And then the one, like I said, you guys have been taking the superintendent around. Every last one of those people have to be at the table. And so I think that it would just be, and we didn't really argue about it or anything like that. We just had some real serious conversations and we did ask those questions. I think that when we look at it, just to start the work, I would like for us to put a motion on the floor to go into conversation, go into for them to start the work with the $10,000. I don't know how it would be worded or how it would have to be formed for us to be able to go for them to begin to start, because they're, like they said, they're leading, they're the expertise. But they will also take into consideration what our community, and the final decision comes from the Board of Education once we talk to our constituents and people who are really concerned about Benton Harbor High School and Benton Harbor Area School.
Madam President.
Treasurer Cray.
Yes, with all due respect, I definitely appreciate everything that I heard tonight. But this is my first time seeing and looking over. And from a finance standpoint, I would definitely like for myself and the finance committee and our CFO and our superintendent to have a conversation to make sure from a contractual financial standpoint that we understand what we're financially getting into as it relates to the cost. And so I have no problem supporting this, but I would like a more in-depth look at the actual cost of this. Like I said, it sounds good, but I'm not really sure as it relates to what it's going to cost us.
If I may.
You have the floor.
If you choose to work with us, we'll submit a formal contract and you can use your attorneys and us will go back and forth. This is very common that we end up having AA contracts with the school districts we work with. So,
Secretary Triplett.
I think I can go along with what Treasurer Creighton is stating as well, because this is November and we're looking at December, to really give them time to come and meet with our superintendent and our finance committee, and our treasurer has been very intentional, very, very, and I think that that's only fair. We've had an opportunity to see it from a facility standpoint. So they need to be, I think that's just like giving deference and respect to the committee that we have formed and selected here. I don't have any problem with that, Madam President.
Okay. Trustee Rockett Martin, are you offering a different perspective? You have the floor.
So what are we looking at in a form of timeline? Even after we do all of this, when can we kind of anticipate getting started? So
based on the proposed
Right.
schedule we had here, and this was us working a little bit in a
Right.
vacuum, but we have to review it in the district. We're suggesting starting right after the first of the year.
okay, so we need to have our business in place so that you can get started at the first of the year.
We prefer to start when we've got a contract signed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so what I would ask, and I agree with Treasurer Creighton, if we can have this brought before if you all could provide a formalized contract that could be reviewed with the finance committee. Our next meeting is the second Tuesday of December. However, if I know that we want to try to move this, we want to try to make sure that we're ready to go in January. So if finance and facilities determines that you all want to go ahead and try to get a contract potentially approved, because we still have to formally take a vote. I am more than open to scheduling a special meeting if we want to get that done prior to our official meeting in December.
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am.
can we tentatively ask that we have a special finance meeting. It can be like about 30 minutes. The last week, the week of the 27th. Molly can pick a date and time and send out the invitation as she coordinates it with your team. And we can just kind of, we'll have a meeting and we can discuss. And then if we feel like it's something that we would like to recommend financially to the board, Chairman Triplett has already recommended it from a facility standpoint, and then we could potentially call a special meeting if needed.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can coordinate. Thank you. Okay, so
I should say, this comes with a lot of work for you all. too.
Oh,
No, the
no.
we appreciate it.
Okay. All right, so it is now 6:54 PM. We had quite a bit, all positive things. It's a blessing. I'm not complaining. That we've done so far. We are technically at committee reports. I would ask that we give the most concise version of our updates as we can. We do have the reports in our binders, and I know that we're going to be voting on a lot of more than likely what's going to be discussed. So I'm going to pass the floor to Treasurer Creighton, and then we're going to try to whip through.
Thank you. So we had our committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, and really appreciate my committee a whole lot, and definitely being diligent and organized, and we are definitely learning how to communicate effectively. And so it's been good. We have an understanding, and so we just kind of do what we do, and so I appreciate that. I have to say that I think we have the best committee so far on this board. But anyway, so I went to a 4-day training that was recommended by our CFO, Wild Ride. It was hosted by Georgetown University. And it was finance people from all over the country that was actually there. It's a great presentation. I learned a lot about ESSER funds and also post-effort relief plans. So I've worked really hard with my committee, and also Dr. Butts and Molly. We're trying to kind of figure out next steps, and we're working to develop a plan. We've developed also an ad hoc committee per the president of this board, so that we can kind of move diligently forward to ensure what I promised Joey Andrews, that we would definitely be fiscally responsible and make sure to the best of our ability that we're not doing anything to get the district back into debt. And so we talked about that briefly. Also, we went through our monthly finance reports, and I'm not going to actually go through any of those because Molly would do so at her time on the agenda. We have 2 recommendations from our board per presentations that will be provided by Teaching and Learning tonight. A little bit of an update. I don't think hashtag Teach or Alexia has been approved since I've been on the board. At least I'm not knowledgeable of it. And so they were just, I'm familiar with the programs, but we were asking that Teaching and Learning can provide just a really, really brief update when it's time on the agenda to actually approve those things. From my knowledge, they are pre-existing contracts, but I wanted to provide this board with more information so that they'll know what they're voting on, or you guys will know what you're voting on. And then also we discussed ESSER 2, we've completed ESSER 2 spending. And so we talked about that. And if you notice, linked to your report, you'll notice what ESSER 2 funds were spent on. Also state aid update on where we are, and we are intentionally pulling funds down on a regular basis. And so that's great that our CFO came with that experience and knowledge on how to do that. And we have the systems in place so that we can just get the money that we deserve and that we've earned. And so we're thankful of that. She completed her first single audit update as CFO for our district. Submission. And so that's been submitted. And so she's going to provide a brief update, hopefully. And then also a few more things that we talked about, positive pay, and she'll discuss that in her presentation. The boiler update, really excited. And I think it was a couple more things. And so the district restructuring and right sizing. And so I know that's a hot topic for everyone. And we talked about that a lot in that 4-day training. And really what that might look like in Benton Harbor is just intentional planning with putting our strategic plan and also our partnership agreement at the forefront of what is it that we need and how can we structure our organizational chart to maximize that without actually losing employees. And so we're not looking to get rid of any jobs or eliminate any positions. We're just looking to make sure that we are putting the right people in the right positions at the right time. And so really grateful for that and that ad hoc committee that we're working on. And we have an upcoming budget revision. And so for the budget revision, so basically it can be done 3 times a year. And we approved our initial budget about a third through the year. We kind of look at, okay, what are some things that we thought we would spend money on? How are we? And if you look at, as she present the report, we do a budget to actual so that you can actually see where we thought we would be versus where we are. I can tell you that we've not overspent in any category, so very grateful. But as we've kind of received updates or we notice changes and chiefs might notice trends or they might have allocated money in one place and decided to actually we need more support in another area, we'll be able to make those amendments to the budget. And so I think that's pretty much.
Thank you, Treasurer Creighton. Any questions for the Finance Committee? Trustee Gavin.
Just wanted to thank the Finance Committee for providing such detailed information. And it's so organized when it's like that. There's really not a lot of questions at the table. And it's just something that I think will create, this transparency is something that will create trust in the community. And I really appreciate the way that this is delivered.
Thank you.
Support.
Thank you. Any other questions for the Finance Committee? And so she did notate before we go into the next, an ad hoc committee that was established for the restructuring and right sizing of the district. But once I developed it, I realized that it's the same as our HR committee. It is myself as president, Treasurer Creighton as the chair of finance, and then Trustee Bowens as the chair of HR, which is essentially the HR committee now. So HR committee has a special assignment to assist with the district restructuring. So we may have meetings that are specifically for that purpose. So although it is the development of an ad hoc committee, it is a committee within itself, if that makes sense. So if there's no other questions for Treasurer Creighton, I'll proceed. I'm actually going to be providing the human resources update today. So we had our meeting on October 31st. I'm sorry.
I didn't know if the chairman was sick.
Please don't come. No.
I am going to be providing the update today, if that's okay with you, Secretary Triplett. Thank you. The HR committee met on October 31st at 12:00 p.m. I thank our trustees for being flexible in doing it during the lunch hour due to my schedule. We did discuss our separations of employment that were anticipated, and they are noted. We discussed our new hires as well, so we'll be looking at those once we get to our human resources reports. We reviewed the current Benton Harbor area schools recruitment and retention strategies. So I believe this may have been prior to Trustee Gavin joining the board, but if you all remember, our former human resource chief provided a presentation on what they were doing to recruit and retain staff. And so we specifically asked for that presentation to be brought back before us because one comment that I actually made is that we will create these elaborate things and say that we're going to do all of these amazing things, but then you check back and has it been done? So I wanted to blow the dust off of it and ensure that we're actually utilizing the strategies that were presented to this board. And I believe that was last year, if I'm not mistaken. It could have been the year before, but we went over that strategy as well. Dr. Butts provided an update to us on the social media policy, specifically reviewing what is acceptable use of staff as it relates to safety as well, and then technology in general. And then we also discussed our teacher and training status. I know that it's something that's often a hot topic with us, but ensuring that we were aware of the status of teacher and training. We went over the program outline, and then we also went over the UTRP support, which was provided by our CAO. And then we were provided updates on our HR audit, current openings, and then Human X Ventures providing climate and future culture and climate surveys. Discussion, question and answers. We discussed the HR audit. We wanted to ensure that the HR director position had been posted. We were informed that the facilities manager position would be reposted because the last posting did not bring forth anyone that the district wanted to bring before the board. And then we also discussed within that committee potentially restructuring the district and what that would look like. As Treasurer Creighton said, we just want to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible with our funding, but we also want to make sure that we have the best dynamic feasible as it relates to utilizing the human assets that we have, our staff, and making sure that they are structured in the district that not only matches their strengths, but matches the district's needs and helps us to be fiscally responsible. So we had a really good HR committee meeting. We're attempting to revisit things that we said we were going to do, ensure that we're actually doing them, and then also set up a strategy to ensure that we're able to maintain what we have currently. Any questions?
I do.
You
I
have the
a
floor.
question. When I served on the HR committee, one thing I would like, like there was some time you made a statement that when it came to the facility director that you all didn't see anybody that you thought that you would like to bring to
Not us, the Dr. Butts.
Dr. Butts
Mhm.
or what have you. So I think somehow how you all when you're forget it.
Did I misspeak with that? Because I don't want to. Okay. So I believe that there were applicants, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Could y'all at least tell us how many or
Was it 7?
I think it was 7. Yes, ma'am. When we got to that point on the last round, it was 7. Some were strong on the admin side. Some were strong on the actual work side. We did not have a candidate that really spoke highly, not just only of both, but for the needs that we have present and moving forward in the future. Just want to make sure that when we have someone, when we get that right person, we have someone that can help speak to the work that is going to be done that we've already started.
So what I would say, and I'm sure this is where Secretary Triplett is, I would have just assumed that the facilities manager position would have been also discussed with the facilities committee, although it's an HR issue. I think he's a little thrown off because it appears that they have not received updates.
nothing?
So if you all could be sure to kind of go over that in facilities so they can be brought up to speed as to where you were falling short with what you received.
Yes, and I would like to, at least have an opportunity in the facilities committee. I'll speak with Chief Corson as he works with our superintendent to see those 7 and just to hear about it because it is the facilities committee directorship. So I really appreciate that clarification, Madam President, as you always do so well.
Madam President?
You have the floor.
And one thing, good report. I think you summed up pretty much what we talked about. Wanted to just kind of provide a little more clarity or at least a question. I think from a policy standpoint, the Board of Education approves new positions or changes to positions. And so I think one of our gaps is definitely looking at, what is the job description that we're saying that we want posted? If we have changed that capacity and title or downgraded that does need a board vote. And so in that, we would note that the job description is not heavy on the admin side or heavy on the facility side, but that it's balanced. And so I think that would be one suggestion that I would make. And then also, so that's for the human resource position and also the facilities position. I think we're in a good position to bring those proposed job descriptions to the HR committee. And then we could work with approving that, at least from a committee standpoint, and making that recommendation so that we can ensure that the job descriptions are aligned with what we're looking for as a district and as a board.
Thank you. If there's no other questions for HR, we're gonna keep it moving to curriculum.
President Robinson.
Treasurer, I'm sorry, Trustee Gavin.
Thank you, President Robinson. I was wondering if the HR committee, I don't know if this is the place for it, but there was in regards to recruitment and retention, there was a particular person who spoke who was concerned about a resignation, and there was going to be a response to that person. Just wondering if the HR committee addressed that issue, did any investigation into that issue, and resolved that issue.
Was that a couple months ago?
Madam.
Maybe a month ago.
Trustee Bowen.
During that investigation, and I want to be careful of speaking due to that being a HR matter, we did receive her resignation letter that she did resign, and the email that we did get that the superintendent forwarded. So, when it's in black and white, there's not anything we can do about that. And, we did forward it, and we did follow proper protocol in making sure things were done right with that.
And I thought that Dr. Butts had forwarded that to the board. But Dr. Butts, if not, can you connect directly with Trustee Gavin to ensure she has the clarity that she seeks and receives a copy of that if she didn't before?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Okay.
Thank you. And so also the postings, the HR director job posting, just for clarity, that position's not posted yet. We're just talking about posting it. And the facilities manager job posting is active, but the other one is not.
Dr. Butts?
Thank you, Madam President. The HR director posting will be live as of this week. The facilities manager position is already active and live.
Madam President,
You have the floor.
again, per our meeting, those things should not be posted until the board approves them because they are position changes. And I thought that they would be on the agenda tonight. Because we did talk about that in HR.
So the HR director position was formerly a chief. So if the duties have changed and it's going to be different, it would be creation of a new position. And the facilities manager role, what was that previously titled as, sir?
Facilities director.
Okay, so that appears to be a change too. And I believe the conversation was having there was supposed to be another meeting prior to this meeting.
Yeah, so actually when we first advertised, it was facilities manager, and dependent upon the way it's advertised, depending upon the credentials that we find, it was able to be updated to facilities director.
But it's never been approved by the board.
And I'm not sure.
So what I'm gonna ask, because we've done a lot, I'm gonna ask that Dr. Butts delay posting of the HR director position until it can come before the board. And being that we're expecting a potential special meeting to move forward with our master facility plan selection, you can try to put that on that agenda as well.
And facility too, right?
Facilities manager.
Okay, HR director.
Trustee Gavin.
Thank you so much. I noticed that social media policy is on here,
Mhm.
and just wanted to, I guess, just get a better understanding of.
So that's the same, that is relating to the same conversation we had in policy committee. I believe that was policy where Dr. Butts went over the social media policy with staff, that they shouldn't be posting while they're at work, things of that nature. We discussed it. And then I also made the suggestion that he ensure that he has a option for people to give ideas and concerns through a survey potentially before, when he presents the social media policy? Do you remember that conversation?
Yes, I
In
guess,
policy.
I guess my question is this a new policy or is this just going over the old policy? Because if it's a new policy,
I thought it was an administrative guideline, Dr. Butts. Because the board of education determines the policies in which we run the district, but then Dr. Butts creates administrative guidelines that are based on the policy. So can you clarify?
So, right, I was working on an administrative guideline. I'm not seeing it on my document here. Am I missing something here?
You're looking at human resources.
No, where's she seeing the,
It's in your human resources report. If you go up and click this.
oh, okay. I
That's what
missed
she's
that
asking.
one.
So we discussed the social media policy, staff, technology acceptable use. She's asking, is that a pre-existing policy or is that the administrative guideline that you're developing?
That's some administrative guideline I was going to potentially work on developing.
thank you.
All right, so we're gonna keep it moving and proceed to curriculum and SPED. Secretary Triplett.
Thank you so much. I am very, very honored. We're so happy to have Chief Waddell back and back to the so we haven't had an opportunity to meet as a committee. She got her footing back, getting in there, doing the work that needs to be done. I would like for her, since Treasurer Creighton asked a little bit about the Team Teach, Memo of Understanding, and Alexia Core 5 info brochure, maybe you can give us an overview at this particular time, Chief Waddell.
It's actually under teaching and learning
Now,
on the
before we
agenda.
voted, it's a staff report, but she asked for a little bit about it, so I was going to ask her just to give us a little bit of information about it. Those are staff report.
Yep, so at the staff report.
What I was suggesting is that she wait until we actually take the vote, so the information will be fresh in our minds.
Okay, I thought I saw it down there, but I thought that Treasurer Creighton had made the statement that she didn't know anything about it or they didn't know anything. So I was going to give her my committee time to give us a brief overview and then we could make a decision when we get ready to vote.
Thank you, Mr. Triplett. We definitely, we just requested that, that they actually have her to provide a brief overview during the staff report. And so that's sufficient, but I appreciate you for having my back.
All right, so again, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Chief Waddell back. Very excited, very happy to have you back with us and looking forward to working with you. Especially in December, we'll be getting together real soon with the committee, the curriculum committee.
Thank you.
Meeting will be the fourth Thursday. And so we'll get with Chief Waddell and Superintendent, but the fourth Thursday of every month. And we'll get together to finalize the time that we will be meeting along with the curriculum committee. The facilities committee, you have your report there, and I'm not going to prolong it. I would like to say that I look forward to going to this committee meeting. I want to take this opportunity to thank Chief Corson for there's always a communication prior to what's going on the agenda, what we will be discussing, and what I would like to add to the agenda so that we'll be able to have a great meeting. You all did get an opportunity to see some of the work that we were doing. We did discuss with them for the board. We wanted to move quickly on that. As it related to the master plan, we wanted to make sure that you guys had an opportunity to see. But we had been working on that about 2 months prior. But we wanted to make sure that you guys got an opportunity to see what we saw and how we came to the resolve of selecting them. If you go into your committee report document on facilities, I will have, let me look at it right here. So we did have, there was an update as always on the boilers and the heat and what's happening, how we're moving along. We had discussion about how the company Egan that has been working with our systems for years. When we talked about making sure that we identify someone, how would that look as the winter comes? How is it going to look? That we have somebody to go and check all of these schools on Sunday evening, so we won't have any surprises on Monday. And making sure that our boiler, we discussed about once the boilers officially come on, when it's heating season, they are not going to be up and down and up and down. You'll get some complaints that it might be too hot, but once they come on, they're on until the heating season is finished. We know with global warming and what have you, this weather might be 90 one day and then a full snowstorm that afternoon. But once these boilers come on, we are going. We call it heating season, and they will be on and maintained and monitored. So we were talking about we are identifying someone who knows from Egan who's been working on our boilers to be the person that go in there and do it. I told our superintendent he think he's a jack of all trades, but he will not be down there bumping into those boilers. We will have a professional in there that's going to check and maintain. We talked about our site visits and our project schedules. So, you know, there are things that they have been working on with all of our current buildings and what have you. So we have a tentative schedule, how that might look. So we would appreciate if you all would go through. We had a discussion as it related to our vacant buildings. If you go on there and you look at it. So all of the buildings are in that particular document. And we discussed, you know, what types of things we would need to do to secure these buildings. Even cementing, he had spoken to some of the board members about cementing looking at a different way to secure the building where we cement the windows and all of those different things. We had a very intense discussion. Bricking up the building to make sure that people have, because one of the things that happens, you buy the wood, they steal the wood. You buy whatever you put up there, they take that down. Okay. So that was a very serious conversation. So we are on top of that. We'll be bringing that information to you as soon as possible. Our flagpole is up. The waste management drainage repair is complete. And that was over there where you see in the courtyard by the student comments, and we talked about that earlier. That's all done. It was not connected to the city at all. You know, when they went and found out what it was something more in depth and what have you.
I'm going to ask that everyone else is silent while Secretary Triplett is giving his report, please.
They have no respect for me, but they will.
I'm so excited.
We put out a quick RFP. I think Mr. Chief Corson will bring us an update. We talked about the snow, the RFP for the snow and checking, because that needs to be done. This should have been done in September, October. We should already have this in place. However, with the person that we had, all the changing contracts and different things, people stopped answering. So, you know, just a lot of things in the transition. You can't expect everything with the transition that we've gone through. And we've handled our business. Don't shoot at me. We did have a tough conversation, but we have that's right there. So we can make sure that our snow is covered. Large number of minor drainage repairs and electrical repairs. The floor prep, Chief Corson will give you an update on that. And we talked about that athletic department office being painted, and it must be within the week. That is unacceptable. So we are definitely working on some things in the facility committee.
You guys miss me.
Thank you, Secretary Triplett, for keeping your update brief. Is there any questions for the committee? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the policy committee. which I had an opportunity to attend and thoroughly enjoy. Trustee Gavin.
Thank you, President Robinson. We enjoy having you. You have really great ideas that you shared with us. Can you all hear me okay?
Not really, a little louder, Al. I mean,
I'll do my best. Maybe this is just not working.
It's a
Okay.
conspiracy. Someone's trying to shut you up.
Hello.
I'll speak up. Okay, so we had an amazing meeting. Most of our meeting we extended to Coach Burton, who spoke to us from the perspective of bringing back the peer mediation program, considering all that's going on, discipline being not discipline, but just really, how do I say, keeping the peace in our schools is a really hot topic. And this is an amazing program in which our students would have the opportunity to become peer mediators for each other and leaders to help with conflicts within the building. And so I would probably love to just extend just a minute or so to Dr. Butts, if you want to give us an update on that.
Yes, ma'am. Want me to give it now? For the peer mediation?
Yes, please. If is that something that we
Yes,
can
ma'am.
get going pretty soon?
Yes, that is. So he's actually working on now the recruitment of those students to make sure we have those in place. We want to make sure we get some guidelines in place as well. But at the very end, give some updates. I won't speak it directly to that, but another portion of what we discussed in the policy committee.
Okay. Yeah. So Coach Burton spoke to us about how that program helped reduce a lot of the fights and conflicts in schools. And I believe that this program, once implemented, will be the flagship for schools throughout the state of Michigan, throughout the country. So I'm really excited about what's going to happen there as our students step up into leadership to solve their own problems. The other thing that we discussed, that was most of the meeting, we did discuss the possibility of electing our student school board representatives having an opportunity to engage in the election process and be voted on as school board members. That's going to take some time to develop that policy and to hopefully it's something that the rest of the members will support. But in the meantime, we did not want to hesitate in giving the students this year an opportunity to get on the board. So we're going to stick with the old policy and encourage Superintendent Butts to choose those students so that we can get them engaged as soon as possible, if that makes sense. You had something to share, please?
Yes, ma'am. So I am happy to say that Mr. Trevin Alexander got right on that. And he does have some recommendations that I'll be bringing to the committee on making sure that we were diligent in our selection process and how he did it. So I invite him to the next committee before we present those to the board.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Butts, for that. I love to see students engaged, and I love that you're engaging Mr. Alexander. He is a school counselor, so he knows the students. He knows them. So that's great as well. The other thing that we will be discussing and getting into is the updates on the student code of conduct book, and also a review of the policy around the disciplinary committee's role in expulsion, SNAP suspension, etc. Really excited about that because of several years back, the disciplinary committee lost a lot of its teeth, and we don't get involved unless there is a somebody appeals an expulsion, and by then, the damage is already done. So I think that if we have an opportunity to review this policy, that would be great. I personally would love it if we can be even more proactive on the disciplinary side, but we're going to be reviewing those policies at our next meeting as well. And also we will be reviewing some policy updates from Neola, and I'll turn it over to you. Are there any questions?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair, as far as the expulsion policy, I think we were given some false information as to why we should have gone the other way. I think that we need to go back to our policy where the administrators bring the expulsions to superintendent reviews, and the superintendent brings the recommendation to 3 members of this Board of Education, and we make the decision as to who will be expelled. If it's in the policy, it should go back. Also, I am glad to hear about the with Trooper Burton and
Peer mediation,
restorative justice, all of those things. You know, a lot of times people like to throw the bathtub out with the bathwater. You don't have to look, you know, it's a lot of new people here, but these things were very successful in the school district. So I don't know why they're not archived or saved anybody. Nobody's making up anything new. But I am very concerned that I've heard all of these people from the high school that this person is going to do this person is going to do that. But we have a principal that we hired. And I think the disrespect, and it has been going on for some time now in that chair. And I think that any employee it's just like the superintendent is the voice of the district. The board president is the voice of the Board of Education, and these subordinates are being reached out to, being requested and asked to do these things. And I think that it's very disrespectful, and I do not appreciate it at all. I just want to make that clear. I'm quite sure that we have, you know, people in there, but even they should not step to this table if they have not come through their principal. Where I work at right now, there is no way that anybody would come to this board, anybody would come and speak on behalf of our school without it going through our principal. That is totally unacceptable. Also, on the last thing, was one more thing that you discussed in there, and I would like the necessary adjustments to be made. I think it's disrespectful to our principal. And it was one more thing, another thing that you had I'm trying to, this new computer. I'm trying to go down that you all discussed. Oh, the social media. I understand. Yeah, the social media policy. And being from an administrative position. This school district have employees that are totally inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
When and the next time, you know, you have employees, if the boiler is not working, you got teachers, got our kids posting on Facebook like they're freezing in-house shoes and pajamas. You got teachers that in these schools that are posting on there about how horrible the conditions are. You got teachers and administrators on Facebook all day long. This right here is not anything new. And I think people need to be dealt with in a severe and quick with a quick response. Because our president, I don't know if she mentioned it prior to us coming here with perception data.
Perceptual data.
Mm-hmm. And when I look on there, it infuriates me to see teachers, staff, people working that we are paying these people because nobody is doing us any favor. Everybody in here gets a check. And if you are not down for us, if you are not with us, then you don't need to be with us around our children or doing anything. So, Madam Chairman, if you can, I don't know what the protocol and what the procedure is, but I will be speaking with you off record. I'm not on the committee anymore, but that needs to be done. And I want that on the record for those who's listening on the radio. I don't like it.
Thank you.
It's still your time.
What I would say is that it's a debate worth having. I personally definitely believe in freedom of speech. I believe that if the conditions are not up to par, it's our responsibility as leaders to get them up to par. And we have some work to do. And sometimes there's some uncomfortable conversations. And so I think it'll be important for us to look at that social media policy and to make sure that we've embedded some opportunities for students, teachers, staff, like President Robinson said, some opportunities embedded in there for their voices to be heard without any retaliation. And so, that's going to be super important. And, we just have to understand that these people are in the building sometimes 6 to 8 hours. And so it's important for us to make sure that there's some comfort there. I'll just leave it at that, and I'll turn it over to you, President Robinson.
I think Trustee Bowens had a question or comment for the
My
policy
apologies.
committee,
Trustee Boone.
or Vice President Bowens, my apologies.
Thank you. I agree with Secretary Triplett. Some of you know we had a teacher that used a kid having a nervous breakdown and put it on Instagram, and it became viral. And we did not know of it until somebody inboxed me, and that kid was my nephew. So we do need to have a social media policy, and we need to make sure that we are telling our students not to bully, but at the same time, or make fun of kids, but at the same time, you have staff members doing that. It's horrible. We do have teachers that are saying we're putting gag orders like we're a mafia, or they're working in Iraq or overseas in a dictatorship. That is unacceptable. When I worked in corporate America, you said something bad about the company, they would tap you on your shoulder and have a grocery bag and pack your stuff up. You couldn't even get your own stuff. So we have to make sure we have a social media policy that is not infringing on freedom of speech. But I can't expect a paycheck and I'm bashing the company that's paying me on the internet.
No.
So we do need to make sure we have a policy that is giving our staff a freedom of speech, but also making sure we're following the parameters. When I was in college, my teacher had to unfriend me because the college said we cannot be friends with our teachers on social media. So it's certain things we do need to make sure we are putting together.
It's a conversation to have. And the distinction that I would make is that this is a publicly owned school. It's not a corporation, and a lot of our teachers and a lot of our staff are voters. And our students are children of voters. And so a lot of the things that happens, the public has a right to know so that they can make the right decisions about how I didn't interrupt.
Said you not interrupt. Thank you.
About how we move forward. So I believe that there's a balance. There's a way to respect the organization that we work for. And we also have a responsibility to make sure that we're providing a working and learning environment that's conducive for that. So I look forward to talking about that in our policy committee meeting. And I believe that there is a win-win solution that will address everyone's concerns at the table.
Thank you. So we're going to move right along because we could debate all night about social media and whether it's appropriate or not. I know we all see differently. I just wanted to comment to what Secretary Triplett mentioned as it relates to perceptual data. One of the greatest forms of data that impacts how successful your school district is perceptual data. And I had never actually heard about it defined as such, but it is the image that people perceive of you. And so I wanted to be sure to bring it before this board and ensure that we're thinking about everything that not only we do at the Board of Education table, the things that we say on social media, the things that our employees say on social media, how our district looks when you drive past, the way the district looks on the outside, the way the facilities look on the inside, whether the website is up to date and things of that nature. The perception that the community has of the district that shapes the narrative is often more important than how well our students are performing. Because sometimes people will work with you if the image of the district supersedes how well people are performing in a particular school district. And so I just want us to kind of keep that in mind and be mindful of that. I won't really comment on the debate that we just had, but I'll send out that particular training so that we can kind of dig deeper into that. And then given that we have spent so much on the front load of our meeting, is anyone in disagreement of us taking a brief recess before we proceed?
Madam President,
Yes,
if I could just make a comment.
you have the floor.
Thank you. Just wanted to, it's really good conversation and I don't want to open the conversation up, but I want to acknowledge what Dr. Butts did clarify with Ms. Gavin at the beginning of the discussion, is that this is an administrative guideline. And so I do want to support Dr. Butts and his leadership team on seeing fit to actually put a policy in place to support the board policy, but not also the board policy, our strategic plan of making sure that we are being above reproach. And so part of that is branding. And so I do want to publicly say that I support it wholeheartedly. What that looks like, I think it's up to Dr. Butts and his team, ensuring that it does not violate board policy or any freedom of speech amendments or anything. But beyond that, I think he has the autonomy to ensure that he is doing what he needs to do to protect the brand that he and this board is trying to create. So thank you, Dr. Butts.
All right, so if there's no objections, can someone give me a time check?
It's 7:39.
Okay, so we're gonna take a brief 10-minute recess. It's 7:39, actually 12 minutes. We'll come back at 7:50 on the dot. Thank you.
Certain people that talk about.
We're gonna move it right along to Dr. Butts with his updates. He's gonna provide brief updates on the partnership agreement, the strategic plan, and the school walkthroughs. Dr. Butts?
Thank you, Madam President. It shouldn't take no more than 2 hours.
Mrs. Creighton has left for the evening. She left at recess.
For the partnership agreement, this morning we had a meeting with MDE and our partners discussing some of the items that we were looking at. So where we are now is looking at the things that we have in place, how they are running and assessing our data. We are looking at some of the things that I'll be discussing later on in the board comments as far as what I found on the one-on-ones and what we have already in place. We have a lot of initiatives in place at this point, and we're just looking at each initiative as we go through, making sure that we are providing all the teachers and administrators with the support they need. And for the ones that we see we're lacking at, we're making sure that we address those either academically, financially, or structurally.
Dr. Butts, I just have one ask. Often they send us an update on, it's like minutes of the meeting, an update on what we review, which is what you're doing. If you could forward those to the full board.
Okay.
I try to do so when I remember, but if we can maybe make it a standard that you just forward it on, that way we can ensure everyone has it.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll forward it in just a few.
Okay, you can continue.
That was pretty much it on the partnership agreement update. For the strategic plan, you should have in your folders the KPIs and metrics, Benton Harbor Area School strategic goals. For the academic programs, and I'll go through this as quick as I can, hold monthly data meetings to analyze student progress towards mastery and develop strategies for enrichment. We do that on a monthly basis with the DPPD and the data days that we use. Expanding tutoring opportunities and summer school offerings to increase achievement and performance growth. We are getting ready to kick off our after-school tutorials beginning at the beginning of December, We will be offering some after-school tutorials. Progress monitor and common formative assessments to establish to monitor students' mastery of skills and standards. This is one of the things we talked about in the partnership agreement today as we were going through and looking at those. There are some concerns and challenges, but we're trying to make sure that we are diligent we're keeping up with our students' progress. So we are looking into this a little bit more and having more discussions on looking at data, how we look at data and how we test to make sure we're not over testing our students, but also keeping up with how they're performing as they move. Implementation of training and assistance for multi-tiered systems support. We're doing that through the state professional development grant, SPDG grant that we have, and making sure that our multi-tiered system of services and supports are being rolled out and implemented with fidelity. Implement and monitor effectiveness of ongoing training for including PBIS and restorative justice. We, in our last DPPD, we did go over some more implementation, more training on restorative justice and PBIS. We have some upcoming things for PBIS that Mr. Corson will go over in his report. Personnel and leadership, continue to implement monitoring programs to support first through third year teachers. We have a monthly meeting through teaching and learning where our teachers in training are supported and or given the support that is needed and or asked for. Continuing to expand professional learning opportunities and supports for principals aligned to the state's leadership framework. We have the Urban Learning Leadership Center in right now that's through RESA, through the partnership agreement, that is doing a comprehensive report from all of our buildings to look at supporting each of our principals in their work that they do every day, and also providing a mentor for me, as was requested by our great Madam President. Communications and community engagement, engage in two-way communications regarding educational programming and operations and environment. We are actively working on that. By December 1st, no later than January 1, we are actively involved in recreating our website, and we will be rolling out that kickoff really soon. So you will see it will be a much easier to use platform, hopefully a new design so that not only our public, but our staff and everyone will have ease of use. It also will come with an app, so be ready for that to come up as we're working on that. We continue to support and expand partnerships with strategic community partners as we grow and learn about different opportunities, either through grants or with partnerships. We're constantly working on increasing those. Maintain long-term budget strategy plan to align with revenue and expenditures. We have an upcoming budget amendment in January. And as seen through the Finance Committee reports, we are diligent in maintaining our budget and looking at the different strategies and being prudent and intentional spenders of our funds. Under operations, develop a facilities master plan for education and facilities, capital improvement, and real estate. We just heard a presentation tonight as our facility committee prepares and plans to hopefully bring that soon. Tonight, you got a glimpse at the whole board to give their input, and looking forward to bring that for a vote real soon.
Okay, Dr. Bush, just two things I want to notate. We were having a conversation, Mr. Secretary Triplin and I, on our way from training. I know that we utilize a multi-tier system of support, but I want us to kind of look at that on an internal level, building wide, and ensure that that's being utilized through all of our systems. We want to make sure that if we see that our students are having difficulty, whether it's with their testing or with their grades and things of that nature, that we're actually implementing those layers. I hate to use the word "no child left behind" because it did not necessarily have positive consequences, but I just want to ensure that we're doing our due diligence in preventing our kids from failing.
Thank you, and I can address that. So what we've been doing, part of teaching and learning, I think Chief Waddell will bring this up in part of her presentation, is making sure, so with this SPDG, the State Professional Development Grant, we're making sure that we are intentional about going in, looking at the data, and having systems in place to reteach. We've got pacing guides together we were talking about today in the partnership. We've got the common formative assessments, and we're making sure that we look at those and are talking to the faculty and staff about where our students are. And we got some great information today from one of the ladies from the State Department of Education, Stephanie Holmes Parker. Miss Stephanie. that gave us some information today on making sure how we bridge the gap between the lower performing students and the higher performing students and putting those supports in place. So part of Reese's responsibilities is making sure that they're ready to deploy the extra help that we need. So we are making sure that we are diligently following those.
So I'm speaking more so relating to, for example, you have a child that is failing because they're not turning in their homework, ensuring that we've called home to the parent to touch base to see if the parent is aware or make sure the parent is aware that we're not getting the homework in or, things of that nature. So not necessarily just the testing scores, but ensuring that we are seeing every child and appropriately supporting every child. And I'm not saying that we aren't, but just making sure we have those layers in place so that we can say that we've done everything in our power to ensure the success of that student. And so, we have not been complacent in their failure. That makes sense.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the other thing that I wanted to notate was not necessarily from me, but from Vice President Bowens. He forgot to notate it earlier. It's extremely important for all of us, but it was a great point that Vice President Bowens made, I think, yesterday in a phone call, and ensuring that we actually have a plan, financial plan, to ensure that we don't go back in the red. So I know there's all of these great things that we're doing and things that we have in place, but do we have a tangible plan that says, this is how we plan to utilize the funds that we're saving? And one of the ideas that I suggested, and this is just an idea because I'm not on finance committee, is setting up where we say, okay, we have $500,000 or $500,000 to $600,000 a year that we're saving now that the debt has been relieved, maybe looking at it and saying, okay, we're going to commit to not spending 100,000 of this or 200,000. So we don't just get overly excited with spending the extra money, but have a tangible plan. And that's just one example.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I will defer that to you all in the finance committee in taking your time and actually getting us something. And I don't think it'll take us much to create it, but just having something in place to ensure that not only for us, but the next legacy of board, that there is something in place to ensure that we never go backwards.
Yes, ma'am. And actually, we're going to be looking at that when we do our budget updates in January.
Okay.
And as part of what Treasurer Creighton pre-messaged tonight with looking at restructuring the district, how it will look, and reimagining how things are run and how things look in the district as we become more prudent and making sure that we stay in the green and not in the red.
All right. School walkthrough updates. You have a question? I'm sorry. Secretary Triplett has a question.
I just wanted to piggyback on what President Robinson stated as it relates to principals and their responsibility as it relates to the grading of our children. Because one thing that, are teachers doing lesson plan? Are the principals going through and looking at their lesson plan? Okay, within those lesson plans, since we have such high rates of failure, do their lesson plans show that there was reteaching done? All of those types of things. We have parents who are saying that their children received the grade of F, and they were never notified. How do you go through 9 weeks and a child has an F and a parent has not been contacted? That is unacceptable. And if that is the case, what is in place? Those children need to receive an I and then complete, because they were not, parents were not notified. You can't just fail these parents. You can't just fail these children without documentation. If my child is in the school, and I'm not talking about what I heard, what I know to be. My wife and I, we were looking at one of the things where they, across the state, where they put the attendance. They were auditing the attendance and saying that Benton Harbor's attendance was so horrific. Who is monitoring? Because I know attendance has always been an issue for some time now in Benton Harbor area school, where teachers are, their attendance submitted to that office, at what time and who's not, what teacher is not taking their attendance on a regular basis. We have gone over to truancy court in the past have gone over there, and what the record said at the school, what the record, it can blink all night.
Go ahead and finish your comment,
I'll
sir.
finish my comment. Okay. I got some comments in my closing comment. It can blink all night, but the whole thing is about, we got to have some things in place, seriously, because we can't just take this and say that this is data. And then I have one more question where it says psychological in the operation, develop, implement, and evaluate a fiscally responsible growth plan that will ensure physical and psychological. We have ALJ.
Where are you?
I'm on operations. Is it algae in the buildings, or was that psychological? Or psychological?
Well, is that on the list? Which one? Is
Operation.
operation? Let me go
Yeah,
down.
I was just trying to read for understanding.
Oh, it should, you're just missing an S.
Is it, I didn't know if that, because psychological deals with algae.
A quick time. So we'll get that updated right away.
Okay, I didn't know. I was wondering if they were talking about the football field, the stadium. The green stuff.
Dr. Bus, you can proceed. Oh, Trustee Gavin.
I'll be brief. This is just from another perspective. I know that please don't take this as me, dissing anybody's idea or anything. But I know that when we were growing up, the teacher had to call home and tell the parents what was going on. But I would really love it if we could help our families to kind of lean on the technology of Power School, because sometimes it just becomes a lot for the teacher to have to constantly call. And if we can help make sure that our parents have access to those apps, then they can, and we're making sure that our teachers are updating those apps properly, then the parents can get that information real time. And then the teachers can kind of focus on, the teaching and learning part, and the parent can hold the kids accountable. So that's kind of where I would love it, like if we were kind of focusing in on that area so that nobody's doing too much.
That's an excellent point, because I'm a parent. I have no idea how to get in there. So,
And the parent part.
yeah. Trustee Raquel Martin, you need to speak. Are you speaking?
Do trainings for your now, school. Is that one of the things? That could be one of the things that Dr. Butts puts out in the neighborhood, so parents could come and learn how to do Power School with the computers and things. So he probably already has been doing that, I'm sure.
Well, I will find the next stop on the bus and learn how to use Power School.
Thank you, Madam President.
Trustee Gavin.
So, I don't know if we're open to it, but every parent has a child, right? So what if we taught the children to teach their parents how to use the app? That might be,
Vice President Bowen.
Trustee Gavin, you make a great point. However, we're dealing with some new millennium kids, and my niece changed the password on her Bob from Power School. My sister was locked out. I mean, this is the real deal. So, just being honest with you. Our kids can teach our parents, but they know how to go in there.
Thank you. So just wanted to make sure, and I want to make sure that I reiterate, I'm not saying that those are things that we are not doing. I know that we have some of the best administrators, especially how we've recently moved them around. I just want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence, essentially.
Thank you, Madam President. And just to comment,
You've already spoken, Secretary Triplett. You can continue, Dr. Butts. Protocol as of 9/13/2022, all comments will be limited to 2 minutes per trustee per topic. No disrespect intended.
Oh, it's disrespect because y'all talked for 7 minutes.
Dr. Butts.
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you for that. That was actually one of the things that we discussed in the partnership agreement this morning as well, were the walkthroughs and making sure we do our due diligence. So I am taking note of that. As part of the school walkthroughs, we did discuss about principals knowing what to look for, the lesson plans the teachers are doing. And if anyone comes off the street, they should be able to assess and or tell where the teacher is, what they're working on as part of their daily classroom instruction. Also with these walkthroughs, I did what I've been scheduling lately are one-on-ones with teachers. So I've been able to complete a tour through all of the buildings on the first round. The information that I've received has been phenomenal, and I'll be quantifying that information and sending it out to the board prior to bringing it up here at the board table. No surprises at the table before I put any information out, but the information that I've received is phenomenal. My next rounds will start with the seniors. So I'll be speaking with the students as well. So as we make our decisions moving forward, we're not doing things to people, but we're doing things for people. We're not doing things to students. We're doing things for students. So with the walkthroughs that I've completed, the information has been phenomenal.
Thank you. We're going to keep it moving right along. Thank you so much, Dr. Buzz, for the updates provided. We're now going to pass the floor to our CFO, Chief Vincent, and she's going to give us the monthly financial reports and present staff report F1.
Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to kind of go through this kind of in a backwards fashion. The first thing I wanted to draw your attention to was the ESSER 2 report. This was a follow-up from the previous meeting and where we were asked for, I'll call it a shopping list of where we spent the ESSER 2 funding. What I did at the beginning, you can see it's broken down by the big groups in salaries, benefits, purchase services, and supplies. As you can look at this at the top, you can see 91% of ESSER 2 was spent on salaries. And the reason we were able to do that was because we were able to, I think the word that we've been using here has been backcasting. So the last 2 years, we were able to move salary related costs into ESSER 2. This was a process that we started in February, and we were able to spend all the money down for 9/30 of this year. If you look a little bit further down the page, hold on 1 second. Spot. Further down the page, you can see I'm quantifying the amount of each position. So you can see it's about 50 teachers' salaries for 3 years. There were 1,700 Chromebooks purchased. There was also about 12 FTEs of EduStaff personnel purchased with these funds. Also, you can see we paid for Graduation Alliance, which is part of the truancy program that we had at one point. And you can see we also paid for some guidance and social workers, technology staff, some fiscal staff, and some registrar and different custodial supplies during the pandemic. This list might not look to be very comprehensive to you, but the point of it is that we've put almost all of this money into salaries. And that's really what I wanted to emphasize here. The community open forum we had was around ESSER 3, and those funds are still actively being spent. This was a budget that the funds weren't as well planned out from previous situations. And this was us doing the best we can to move forward to get it spent within the guidelines given to us with the guidance from the state. Does anyone have any follow-up questions?
Secretary Triplett, make sure you speak in the mic, please.
Where are the 1,700 Chromebooks?
So I can.
You don't have to answer right now.
Okay.
Evidently, you don't know. The 1,700 Chromebook. And see, when we sit up and we bring this here, because we have approved this stuff repeatedly when we first got on the board, it was money that was spent for technology. It never get to our children. Our children are going home with packet. Where are the 1,700 Chromebooks? Can somebody please get on that this week and let us know? Because we have 1,400 students. That means there should be 300 extra Chromebook somewhere. The 1,700, I've never seen them. I've never heard parents say that these kids have these Chromebooks at home. And so we sit up here and we look at this, and I think it's our responsibility as board members to not just look at this stuff and not have any questions and not get any response. We have over $2 million or $3 million in salaries up top. So as I go through it and look at this, let's see how much time I got. And you said the majority of this money was spent on salary. So again, it's as I look here, maybe you guys, maybe it's not in layman's term, but I know how to decode and I know how to read. So thank you so very, very, is that stuck? I'm scared.
Thank you, Secretary Triplett. I just want to, provide a little bit of clarification in that a question was asked to the CFO and the computers are not necessarily her responsibility. So I would not expect her to know where the computers are. So I just wanted to interject. I think the pause was because it was a question about the status or the placement of the technology during her presentation, and that's not necessarily under her leadership. So I do want us to want to ensure that the chiefs have heard the question, so we can look into it and we're going to survey our stock and notate what we have so we can ensure that we are being fiscally responsible with the money that is being spent.
Madam President, that wasn't for her.
It was just for the
It was
chief
just
in
a
general.
general conversation. The superintendent is sitting 2 people to my left. The technology department, facilities, the former technology director is here. So she's new.
Right.
So I'm not asking for a response tonight
Okay.
from any of those people. I just want people to know where are the 1,700 Chromebook.
All right. Molly, you can proceed. I'm not sure if it was anything else you wanted to go through, but if you're prepared to go over staff report F1 regarding the monthly financial report, we can proceed.
All right.
Oh, you have Trustee Gavin had a question. My apologies.
Finishes 51 seconds. I am a firm believer in if you ask the question, there should be an answer for a question like that. I don't understand. Does someone here have an answer? Have those computers been distributed to the students? Does every student have a computer is the question.
Chief Corson.
Molly, you're right.
As of my department meeting on Tuesday, every building has an overage of 10% allocated to their building and should be in their building right now.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so every building has the computers and they're deciding how the students would use them, whether they would go home or just kind of use them as classroom sets.
So the implementation of the technology is not necessarily under my purview, but the allocation and the insurance, the district has supplied the students with the computers, and that the building principals and all of the support staff that work to implement those programs are supplied with them. So I can confirm directly from our technology manager that we have an overage of 10%, and that 10% is intentional to make sure that we can allocate for breakages and loss or students not coming to school with a device or other mishaps.
So it's up to the building principals whether or not the computers are going home directly with the children or not, is what you're communicating.
Yes, that has not been a directive that has been put in place by my department.
Okay. Trustee
Thank you
Gavin.
so much for that, for clearing that up. I didn't want that to just be left in the World Wide Web of, So thank you for that. I wanted to thank Molly. I'm sorry. I want to give you your proper respect. I know Molly, what's your last name?
Vincent, Chief Vincent.
I want to thank you so much, Chief Vincent, for this grocery list. Like, this is really easy for the average person to kind of understand how this money is being broken down. And I wanted to know, is this a document that the public can see? Is this something that can be shared with the public or with people who are asking that question? I get that question a lot. What did y'all do with the extra money? You know, and this is easy to follow for the most part. Some people might not know what FTE and all that is, but it gives us kind of a breakdown. Is this something that can be shared with others, or is this just an internal document?
Trustee Raquel Martin, I haven't given you the floor.
So
I
this,
know, but you talk to yourself very loudly all throughout the meeting.
Point of order.
Thank you very much. Chief Vincent.
this document is for the board meeting, so it is able to be seen from the public perspective if they were here. So it's linked to the agenda that's available publicly. So I do believe that if someone needs to see this, ask you to see it, you have it in your purview to reference this document and point them to it.
Thank you. My other question is, it says 50 teachers' salaries here. Is that about how many teachers that we have
No.
currently in the district?
No. So what that is we were always braiding funds. So for example, a teacher currently is funded 14% via our title funds and 86% via ESSER. So that was me doing math to get it to a number that makes sense, about 50 full-time teachers and what they would cost us. But that's not, if you were going through our specific list, there wouldn't be 50 names listed there, because what I was doing was trying to summarize it in a way that was readable and be able to be digestible by the board per the request.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Vice President Bowens, was your hand raised or are you fine?
I'm fine, I'll wait.
All right, Molly, can you please present staff report F1?
All right. Today, the reason we are the subject of monthly financial reports. These are available in your packet. A set of financials is provided to the Board of Education each month. The facts and analysis is that this evening is recommended that the September 1st to September 30th, 2023 payments be approved for all of the district's funds. The policy reference is 6470, payment of claims. The strategic goal reference is facilities and operations. Benton Harbor's area schools will develop, implement, and evaluate a fiscally responsible plan that will ensure physical and psychological safety. The recommended action is that the Board of Education approve the September 1st to September 30th, 2023 payments for the following funds. The general fund, it's $649,753.75. The food service fund at $1,926.75. The 2017 sinking fund at $4,845, and the student activity fund for $672. The total of this amount is $657,197.50. And this report links directly to the vendor payment report if you'd like to see additional detail.
Is there a motion to approve staff report F1?
So move.
Is there a second or support?
Support.
The motion has been made by Secretary Triplett and supported by Vice President Bowens. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none. Secretary Triplett?
President Robinson.
Yes.
Vice President Bowen.
Yes.
Secretary Triplett. Yes. Trustee Rocket Martin.
Yes.
Trustee Gavin.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chief Vincent. Next, we are at Student Support Services. We've already done our presentation, so we are passing the floor to Chief Corson for the November Student Support Services update.
Good evening, Board of Education. I am going to move fast in the interest of time.
It's appreciated.
And we have already gone over many of these areas previously in this meeting, but we have been working diligently to make sure that our current boilers are running, maintained, and that we get the proper approvals. On the right, you will see that our inspection for the boiler was approved and we are certified. So there is another stamp of approval for this year.
Louise, did you catch that?
Referencing the waste management drain repair that we had already spoke about earlier. That is just some of the work that was done out back. I know that various members had seen the different stages of that work. It was very intense, and we sent robots down those pipes and cleared out large amounts of debris from a lot of our drainage systems. And what you will see now is a beautiful sidewalk. We are going to work on the next phase of making sure that that area is welcoming and inviting again. So that's the next stage of that project. Going back on to the facilities, we are working with Omnia. We're working on the boiler replacement project with one of the individuals that you met earlier, Steve from C2AE. And so we worked through with the A&E firm. We're working to try to get a schematic design by the end of this week to keep on schedule. And so far, we have made a lot of very rapid progress on that project. So I just want to give you an update that is moving along swiftly and on target. Omnia is a purchasing agreement service that we are working in close collaboration with to make sure that we can go through the RFP process and meet our procurement requirements specifically for the track and field, as well as gym floors and potentially a driver's education program. Vacant buildings have been secured numerous times. I know it has been a point of conversation within the community as well as within our boards, but we have been diligently working to secure our buildings. They are regularly visited by different members of the community. So we are working to try to find longer term solutions, some of which have been brought to the table earlier in the conversation. As noted earlier, there is now a very large flag in front of this school, and our flagpole has been fixed. I wanted to bring special note to that as we have just celebrated Veterans Day. And so now we are able to fly a flag in front of this building once again. The floors have been cleaned and prepped as we get into our athletics season. I do want to bring up that I apologize. We did honor Bob Kesterkeep, but we did not do that this last month. So that must be a tag along from the previous report. But we do have the girls basketball season coming up on November 20th. Our first game is on December 5th versus River Valley. The middle school boys basketball also is in full swing with their first games against Water Valite and Coloma. Boys basketball is underway with practices right now. The Meet the Team is at the end of the week with the first home game on the 28th. Wrestling has begun with practice, and their first meet is at Maple Valley. And a full list of the athletic schedule for the month is attached in this presentation as well as on the website. MTSS and SPDIG, we have been utilizing the MTSS oversight, and we have been working with My MTSS in partnership with the State Partnership Development Grant, which is what is commonly referred to as SPDIG. We did receive an award for our utilization of our data assessment. So I do want to bring that to light and congratulate the team on receiving the award and recognition from My MTSS. The DPPD2 for the support staff focused on whole child practices, behavioral referrals, and building safety assessments. MLK and DEC staff completed pyramid model training with My MTSS. And GSRP is working on alignment with PBIS and developing expectation visuals to post in their areas of that school.
I just want to pause and mention that we learned at the training that in my training, in one of my legislative courses, that they have signed, the state essentially has created a goal of providing free preschool for all. And it's not going to be immediate because they want to make sure that creating this, which will of course give increase in student enrollment for area schools, doesn't create a hardship for companies such as daycares and things of that nature that are running preschool programs. So they're going to do it over the next 3 years and figure out what that looks like. But we will be phasing into a preschool for all in the state of Michigan. So just wanted to notate that because they're essentially expanding GSRP over the next few years, which will potentially increase enrollment for Benton Harbor area schools.
Wonderful news.
Yep, you can proceed.
For family engagement, the literacy night at MLK brought over 30 families with over 75 in attendance for that event. I wanted to make special note of Step Africa, which our principal here at the high school was able to bring to the school here, as well as provide some free tickets for our community. So that was a wonderful, wonderful time and a wonderful treat for our students. There are multiple parent connection opportunities being held across several of the buildings, including the Whirlpool and us collaboration for the Feel Good Fridge program, as well as the Care Counts laundry programs, which are right now operating, but we're working to try to ramp up those services to our community. Upcoming events, we have at the high school, we have a luncheon coming up. Actually, that was last week. We have pastries with parents. Tomorrow, we have the DEC Fall Fest, and then we have the Family Dance Resource Fair on the 30th, as well as other events coming up in each of the buildings. So that is the conclusion of my update for student support services.
All right, Secretary Triplett.
No.
You don't have a
I had-
question?
Yeah, I had just requested that with all of those acronyms that you all please write them out. What they are.
So just put it like
And then you put those in parentheses and what have you, so we can know what they are. EDG, DDPP. I thought that was like Grand Rapids. I didn't know what you was talking about. I want to be able to read.
okay, Vice President Bowles.
I see that, we're gonna be repairing the track field, and that's great. Our kids should do it. But have we ever thought about, before repairing the track field, see how much a turf field costs? And then replace the track field. Our kids play on the football team. It doesn't make sense that we're fixing, I get it, but it's iconic, but a lot of our children deserve the best. And it's amazing to see when you drive at June Woods Park, they're playing on the turf field. And I think they would do that. So I'm going to confer that to the chair or so.
All right, thank
Dr.
you.
Butts wants to respond.
Dr. Butts?
Thank you, Madam President. That was one of the things we were discussing today during the company we were speaking with. That was one of the first questions that was asked. So we're exploring those opportunities.
Okay.
All right, so if there's no other questions, Trustee Gavin.
Hey. Thank you for this presentation, Chief Corson. I am particularly excited about the driver's ed program and am interested in what that timeline looks like. And then also, I don't know if it's possible. I've seen it in other states in which like driver's education was somehow connected to CTE or life skills. So that way they're not just taking the course, but they're also getting a credit. And I'm wondering if that's an option that we're exploring as well.
So Dr. Butts or Chief Waddell?
So I'll go ahead and take that one. We are in the process of getting an RFP out for that. And we're looking at how we're going to bring that back to the district. It will start off not as a course, but as an offering, almost like a club, if you would, a sponsorship, and then bringing it to braiding it into our course guide. So we got to have a starting place, and then we braid it into the course guide.
As a free course?
So right now, what we're looking at is a two-part. School would bear the most of the cost, and the parents would have some part of the cost in it. We want to make sure that there is that the students are fully engaged and fully committed to completing the program. What we've noticed sometimes in the past that when some things are offered, there may not be an incentive to complete it. So we are looking at making sure that there are incentives to complete the program. We've just been talking about the ideas and discussing how to roll that out within the finance committee, and we're going to talk about it more in the facilities committee. So when we put the RFP out, which we hope to get out about at least before the beginning or the middle of December, when we go out for December, what that actual proposal will look like. So we're in the planning stages now, putting that RFP out.
What I would like to invite you to consider is the possibility that the driver's license is the incentive to complete. And once we get that program, I believe there'll be a waiting list. And if they don't take it seriously, they won't pass the class and somebody else will take their spot. I think that, if we make sure that it's affordable or as close to free as possible, they will, out of all the classes, that one they will take seriously. So I'm just, hoping that we would consider that. And, one of the benefits to that is it will help us to draw back our students. And the other thing is, if they can get that license, it will help keep them out of the arms of the police. And so it's a really great opportunity for us to kind of close up that school to prison pipeline in a very real and literal way. So thank you, Dr. Butts.
Secretary Triplett.
In Ben Harbor High School, we had driver's education. We had a simulator lab in the back of the school trailer, and that's what we did a simulation in. And then we went on the road. The district had 2 driver education cars with brakes on both sides and what have you. I think if you all would look at this, that's an incentive to get kids back to our school district because they have to attend Benton Harbor High School. They would have to be students here. I don't think it should be any cost. We should look into it. But we went in and we had it for a semester. And we were in the simulator lab. And then they took us on the road. We finished, we got our license at 16 years old. So I would like you all to look at it from that perspective. I'm quite sure it moved a little bit further. Yeah, down the road with, how driver's education can be done. Because our kids are paying mass money for these classes and they really can't drive. The parents are having to take the kids on the road and they're not. But if we got a simulator lab and find driver's education teachers and they take it, that's what I thought when you said driver's education program. I didn't think it was gonna be nothing, but we're gonna come and y'all gonna pay. I don't think that wasn't what I was thinking about at all.
We're researching all options.
Thank you.
Trustee Raquel Martin.
Yeah. I have a step grandson that's going through driver's ed right now. And I think one of the greatest things that we have to emphasize to the families is that their parents really have to be involved. They have to have so many hours actually driving on the road with their parent. I know there's a simulator over at the Boys and Girls Club that the kids at the teen center, because I had grandchildren that went over there to practice the driving thing. But now they have to get on the road. And I think it's like a 2-part course. It is expensive, kind of expensive, but if we are going to do it where they actually get their license, there's got to be a commitment from the child and also from the parent.
Thank you, Trustee Raquel Martin. And thank you, Chief Corson, for your presentation this evening. We appreciate your efforts as always. We are going to move right along to teaching and learning. I would like to say to the Board of Education, I value everyone's comments and insight and feedback. But to allow us to try to get through our agenda, I would ask that if a point has already been made, that you not restate it. And we try to make sure that our comments moving forward are as concise and efficient as possible, so that we can try to get out of here without it being too late, because Madam President has been running since Monday on behalf of this Board of Education, and I am fried. So we're going to try to get through for everyone. So we're going to pass it over to Chief Waddell. You have the floor. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Board of Education. Glad to be back. The first thing that I would like to kind of announce and kick off is that we are going to begin our extended school day beginning on Monday, November 27th. And so what you have in front of you is just a quick overview. I will not be reading all of it. I'm actually going to skip to the second page where it speaks to the description of the program. But we were awarded the $23G dollars to be able to move forward with our extended school day. And so our building principals, they're super excited. They're glad that this is another opportunity that we are able to implement. And so our elementary students will be staying after school starting November 27th, 2 days a week, Mondays and Wednesdays only. And then our secondary buildings will be staying after Tuesdays and Thursdays only. Again, the times are reflected below. And then our focus will be to intervene on phonemic awareness, phonetics, comprehension, problem solving, writing essays, test taking strategies, the things that our students need to be successful in the spring. Some of our resources, excuse me, our hope is that we do get Core 5 Lexia approved, as well as Power Up Lexia, but those are hopefully two of our resources, as well as iExcel, Reading Mastery, News ELA, and then any evidence-based teacher-created types of supplemental materials. And again, just so you know, our principals are excited that we are able to implement this. They saw some success last year with having students stay after school, and studies show that increasing time on task can increase students' performance.
Thank you. And so this is going to tie right into the MTSS, our multi-tier system of support.
Correct.
Kind of.
Yeah, on the academic side, yes.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief Waddell? All right, you may proceed.
Okay. Moving on, this is a quick overview of our Growing Our Own program. Was informed, I can't remember which committee meeting it was, but was informed that you all wanted another overview of the Growing Our Own program. I was able to implement some data this time. So again, I won't go over every slide, but just know that the program is in its 5th year. The purpose of it, we sometimes have subs that are really good at what they do, and we want to bring them on board. That was kind of the initial push with Growing Our Own. But then as the years have gone on, again, people are coming to teaching from outside industries that have an interest in teaching. And if they get the recommendations from their building leader or HR, then we are interested in trying to grow our own with those candidates. So just a real quick overview of the pathways. Liz, if you could go to the one with the pathways, it's the next slide. Remember that there are 3 pathways. We do call this whole program TNT, but really it's Growing Our Own. And within the Growing Our Own, we have 3 pathways: the teacher in training, teacher in resident, and urban teacher residency program candidate. The teacher in training, those are anybody that has at least an associate's degree or 60 credit hours that are working towards a bachelor's. They have up to a year to decide what they're going to do next, they have up to a year to decide if they're going to go back to school. They have to go back to school within a year of being hired, if they're in that TNT category, to work towards that bachelor's degree so that we can eventually get them to the point of certification. Teachers in residence are people that already hold bachelor's degrees that are outside of teaching. Again, they will take an alternative teaching accelerated program to prepare them for the MTTC, the Michigan Teacher Exam. Certification exam. And again, they go through a year of preparation work through #Teach. That's our alternative program right now that we internally have. Teachers can also select an alternative program on their own. And we do have one of our growing our own candidates who's in her, she picked her own accelerated program. So that is also an option. But what we provide from Benton Harbor Area Schools is #Teach currently. And so if you're a teacher in resident, you will sign up to do that yearly work, and that should prepare you to pass the assessment. And then our final pathway is UTRP. Again, we have a partnership with Western Michigan University, and these are people that hold a bachelor's that have an interest in gaining a master's degree in either elementary education, secondary, or special education. They go again through a year-long accelerated program to earn a master's to prepare them for the certification. Then they take the test and they become certified. And so the next slide is just the data and how we're growing. And again, like I said, we are in our 5th year. So you have part of this year reflected, but we're still in the 5th year. Remember that year 21-22 is when Dr. Shelton went out and I came in, and it was difficult to capture everything in that year. So that's why it does not look like the other bars. But what you see in front of you as far as the data goes, the blue section of the bars are the TNT, red section TNR, UTRP yellow, and overall is green. And you can see from year 1 overall the way to year 5, we are growing in our program. We have currently 56 participants. So we're split right down the middle. But I'll tell you, everybody that I started with last year, they're back, and they're an awesome group of teachers, and they're really committed to our district. So I'm glad to have them back and have more people joining. So that's the data. And so just some new things that we've done this school year. Quandra King, she is our master teacher, SPDIG State Personnel Development Grant coordinator. She has started to meet with, we have 6 current participants who need to pass the MTTC exam. And so we have started workshops where we have our own teachers that are supporting other teachers to understand the material, understand what's going to be tested to help them prepare for the exam so that they can become certified. And so we have started to implement those types of workshops for our candidates as well. That is all I have for this presentation. You want me to pause for questions?
Yes, so I have a comment really quickly. Thank you for providing this information to us. I think it's in HR where I've asked for this, and the reason being is that we have a large amount of individuals that are participating in our Growing Our Own program. And so when you look at the percentage of those individuals, their success, our success as a district is dependent upon their success. And so I wanted to ensure that we are keeping our eye on this program and that the board is as much aware of this program as feasible. I also am happy that you provided the slide that shows the qualifications, because one of the things that we charged ourselves with doing was ensuring that we were able to provide employment to members of the community or our district, because we had realized that when individuals from outside of our area come in, they are sometimes treated with more warmness than those who may be Tigers or are from surrounding communities. And so we were very intentional in saying, ensure people know about job opportunities, make sure we're giving our people, meaning our district and surrounding areas, a chance. And so we do that. And then we see on social media that we're hiring anybody, which is slightly deflating. So I'm glad that you showed that we're not hiring anybody. We're hiring individuals that are trained and qualified and educated. And it's a bit sad that people would view it that way, because we're hiring you. So it kind of reflects what a person's perception of themselves is, that they feel as though we are not qualified to hold these jobs. So I just wanted to make sure that I pointed to that, and that we did show that you are required to have credentials. We're not just picking up Joe off the street and giving them a job. We're hiring qualified individuals as a part of a program that is being run successfully statewide. So I just thank you for that. Dr. Butts, did you?
Oh, no, ma'am.
You just, okay. And then did anyone else from the board have any questions or comments? All right, did you have?
I did have one more thing.
Yes.
With today's partnership meeting, Barry and Risa, actually the state, not Kim, Gloria plans on reaching out to Wayne Risa to provide us some additional supports with our Growing Our Own, because their program, I guess, is really flourishing and how they prepared their teachers for the exam. So we are going to have that kind of collaboration to help our program here as well.
I love that.
Okay.
Because if we know that someone's doing something amazing, I want us to take more opportunities to go to those districts. It costs money to have people come here and present to us, but it takes nothing for us to go up and actually see and monitor and observe what works for other districts, because there's no need for us to reinvent the wheel if we have a model that's successful. So thank you for that.
Moving on.
Okay.
Try to move fast.
You have the floor.
Okay, next is our DPPD Advisory Committee, our district-wide Professional Development Advisory Committee. We have secured, again, this is something that is required yearly from the state, that we have to have board approval of who this committee will be that will represent our district. It will advise up to at least 8 hours of professional learning for our district staff. And so the document that you see in front of you, there's actually two. You have the staff report, but just wanted to go over the names real quick for you. But we have representation from all of our buildings. And we also secured a parent this year. Super excited about that. So there in front of you is the list of people that will represent us. We're going to begin meeting in December and start to plan for our next DPPD day in February. But again, they are to advise at least 8 hours of professional learning. And so staff report.
So I just want to tell you guys a joke really quickly while she's pulling that up. Every time they have a DDPD day and my kids are at home, I'm like, who authorized these kids to be home with me? Why aren't they at school? And then I'm like, oh, you approve it. So I just want the parents to know I feel your pain on those virtual days. They're necessary for us to ensure our teachers are trained. So you have the floor for staff report T1.
Thank you. Subject, District Provider Professional Development Committee, date November 14th, 2023. Reason for board approval. The Michigan Department of Education states a school district may count up to 38 hours of qualifying district provider professional development for teachers as hours of pupil instruction if a district-wide professional development advisory committee is appointed by the District Board of Education and recommends at least 8 hours of professional development. Facts and analysis. Benton Harbor area schools will use 5 pupil instructional days towards district provider professional development during the 23-24 school year. The committee is currently composed of a variety of grades, subject matter specializations, and the committee is seeking a parent committee member as well. Thank you. Secured that. Policy reference, none. Strategic plan reference, communication. Benton Harbor area schools will engage and inform all stakeholders to maximize district support. Recommended action that the Benton Harbor area schools Board of Education votes to approve the formation of a district-wide professional development advisory committee.
Is there a motion to approve staff report T1?
So moved.
Is there a second or support?
I support.
The motion has been made by Secretary Triplett and supported by Trustee Rockette Martin. Any questions, comments, or concerns from the board? Hearing none, Secretary Triplett, can you please call the vote?
President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowen.
Yes.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
Trustee Rocket Martin.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, you can proceed to staff report T2.
Thank you. Staff report T2 is in reference to our accelerated teaching preparation program. The memo of understanding is linked there as well. It's actually through June of 2025, and it was signed and dated back in February. So we have had this for quite some time. And so the staff report, the subject is the approval of the #Teach additional program fee, date November 14th, 2023. Submitting for board consideration, the Board of Education shall approve all textbooks or contracts used as a part of an educational program of the district. Purchases over $29,572 needs board approval according to the most recent State of Michigan Department of Education threshold. Facts and analysis, the district is prepared to enter into a contract with #Teach, #Teach alternative pathways and alternative route to teacher certification. The district uses this program as a part of the Benton Harbor area schools Growing Our Own program. After participants complete a year of coursework, they should be prepared to pass the MTTC. The source of funding for this initiative is Title II. Policy reference 6320, purchasing, strategic plan reference, personnel, We will recruit, hire, develop, and retain the best staff to improve student outcomes. And the recommended action is that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the payment to #Teach LLC in the amount of an additional $57,000 to cover the cost of 10 additional seats in the program.
Is there a motion to approve staff report T2?
So moved.
Is there a second and support? The motion has been made by Secretary Triplett and supported by Vice President Bowens. Questions, comments, or concerns regarding staff report T2?
So what is this?
You have the floor.
So what is this?
I want to make sure they can hear you.
Then she won't be able to see me. Okay, so give us a little bit more clarification, just like in layman's term, what this is, this memorandum of understanding.
So the alternative program that we just went over for the Growing Our Own program, the teachers that are the teachers in resident, our internal alternative approach is the #Teach LLC.
Okay.
And so it was already something that we were utilizing prior to me being here. So we're continuing with that contract because it seems to be the best approach right now. We are always exploring different alternative programs, but right now we are still in collaboration with #Teach. So upon my return, we had several more people. We are Growing Our Own. If you look back at that data, it's increased. And so we need more seats. Initially, the seats that we allocated were 6 or 7, but we need 10 additional seats because we have candidates that were TNTs last year that were hired, but they're at that year cap. So now they have to go into one of our programs to become certified. And so that's why we have such a huge amount of teachers that have selected #Teach versus the master's program. They could go to either one.
Okay, so this is a question that we asked a while ago when we talked about the teacher in training even prior to you coming. Once they get their certification, what do we have to secure? My brother went into Memphis Public Schools, and there was a program similar to this when he first started teaching. But once they went into this program and they did some things like this to get them certified and what have you, but they had to commit to 4 years after they got the certification, or they had to pay all of the money back.
Correct.
So do we have anything in place to say, once you get this and you get certified and what have you, that you have to give us so many years? Have we talked about that, or is that in place?
So with our UTRP program, yes, it is. They have to commit, once they become certified, they have to commit 3 to 5 years in our district. Our #Teach program, we currently do not have language like that. So that is something that we can explore. But with our master's level preparation program, yes, they have to stay here. So for example, Dr. Struther, our English teacher at the high school, she went through UTRP. She's now a certified teacher. She has to remain here for at least 2 or 3 more years, even though I know she's not right now, she's cool, but she has to stay based on that agreement. So we do not have one for #Teach, but we do have that in place for UTRP.
If you could look into that,
okay,
that would be greatly appreciated.
Vice President Bowens.
So I get what you're saying about the agreement, but I guess my question is, what happens if they break that agreement? They still are left as a certified teacher.
So for the UTRP program, if they do not stay here, they do have to pay back all of the money that it costs for their masters, which is about $25,000.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so we would kind of want to mimic something like that.
Okay.
Trustee Rocket Martin.
And this.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
The only thing that I would like to add is the success story that you just shared. We would like to know those, because I can't name who has been successful and who is now certified. That's not information we have. And that's excellent to learn. So just sharing those simple wins with us would be amazing.
Got it.
Okay. All right. So at this particular time, I ask that Secretary Triplett please call the vote. Liz, can you remind me who made the motion, who supported it?
It was Triplett Bowens.
Yeah.
Okay. So Secretary Triplett, can you please call the vote for staff report T2?
President Robinson?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gavin?
Yes.
I don't have my sheet in front.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Lexia Core 5 info brochure, staff report T3.
Yes, and I do want to go backwards just a little bit in time. Isn't
Go
that the
ahead.
song?
Go ahead.
Just so we can remind how we got to this point, because there was some miscommunication when it came to Lexia, Core 5 Lexia. So just to recall, just to jog everybody's memory, it was January of 23 where President Robinson received an email from a Samantha who was from Core 5 Lexia, and we didn't know that we had this product. And then when I went and did the research, it was signed off in October by a person that exited, and that's when I became aware of it. So I wasn't even aware that we had this program that we were supposed to be offering. So I don't know if you recall that from.
I don't, but I believe. I'm sure I just forwarded straight on and asked you guys to check. I don't know what the world this woman is talking about.
Right. So we ended up discovering the contract, got a hold of the contract from the company, and we had started implementing. There were classrooms that started to implement Core 5 Lexia. So we ensured that we used Core 5 Lexia in our summer program because we were getting good feedback from it. Our original contract was not due to expire until September. And so because we receive a lot of good feedback about this intervention program for literacy, we have implemented that into our MyKIP. Okay, so it is one of our strategies to use in our MyKIP. Core 5 Lexia is for kindergarten through 5th, and then Power Up Literacy is for 5th through 9th grade. So that's just the background, just a little bit of the background without putting too many.
I found the email.
Yeah.
She was asking me about a meeting, and I'm like, I don't know what this lady is talking about.
And like I said, it was signed, didn't realize it was signed.
Dr. Buss said it has to be a scammer.
Yeah. So that's the background on why, this is, you guys didn't know because it was something that was lost in the shuffle. But we picked it back up. Like I said, once I found out about it, we started utilizing it. We used it in the summer, got good feedback. And so we want to continue to use it as one of our intervention tools for our kinders through 5th grade. And then we're bringing in Power Up Literacy for our 5th through 9th graders as an intervention tool for literacy. And then the third piece that's with this staff report is the partnership. What's it called? The partnership, the district level success partnership. That's the support that Core 5 Lexia gives our district so that we get it implemented correctly. That's what that piece is. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for listening. All right. So for our staff report, our subject is Lexia Core 5 Reading, Power Up Literacy, and Lexia Core 5 Reading School Success Partnership. Today's date is November 14th, 2023. Reason for board approval, the Board of Education shall approve all textbooks or contract used as part of the educational program of the district. Purchases over $29,572 need board approval according to the most recent State of Michigan Department of Education threshold. Facts and analysis. In alignment with the strategies placed in the Benton Harbor Area Schools Michigan Integrated Continuous Improvement Process, Lexia Core 5 Reading is a supplemental reading program for kindergarten through 5th grade students. Power Up Literacy is a supplemental reading program for 5th through 9th grade students. And Lexia Core 5 Reading School Success Partnership provides year-round support to ensure effective implementation. This program will be used to support the district's Tier 2 and 3 reading interventions. The source of funding for this initiative is Title I. Board policy reference 6320 purchasing, strategic plan reference, Benton Harbor Area Schools will increase student achievement as measured on local, state, and assessments. And that is our academic goal. And then recommended action, the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education vote to approve the purchase of Lexia Core 5 Reading, Power Up Literacy, and Lexia Core 5 Reading School Success Partnership totaling $30,696.29.
Is there a motion to approve staff report T3?
So move.
Is there a second or support?
Support.
The motion has been made by Secretary Triplett and supported by Trustee Rockhat Martin. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
I do not concern.
You have the floor.
See something February the 3rd, 2003. Those kind of things are concerning to me. I do want to support, and I know you all came in here and people exited in a way where they weren't as kind. And we didn't have systems in place to,
You want to speak into the mic?
we didn't have systems in place to, you know, when somebody leave, they just, when every time somebody leave here, whatever we have, they steal it, take it with them. We don't have systems in place. So you guys had to step in and try to figure out a whole lot of stuff. So I'm counting on you having done your research, Dr. Buck, you all have done your research and make sure when you bring this before us that it's good. So I trust it, you know, that this is a good program. I've heard of Lexi, I've heard you speak of it, I've heard of it, I remember it. So you feel like it's good and that it's helping our kids and things like, and teachers. Okay.
Yes.
Let's
To
go.
answer you, yes.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? So I want to say I thank you guys for doing your due diligence and researching. I had completely forgotten about the email and I had no idea what she was talking about. Dr. Butts didn't either. And you know, I've been nervous since that person tried to authorize that check for $33,000.
Well,
So I just sent, I don't know what this woman's talking about. Please get this out of my email. But I am thankful that you all did the research to check into it and realize it was it was something that we could be utilizing. And if you are in support of it, then I just want to verbalize that you have my support. All right, so the staff report T3 has been moved and supported. If there's no other questions, comments, or concerns, Secretary Triplett, can you please call the vote?
President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowen.
Yes.
Trustee Rocket Martin. Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Motion carried.
All right, so thank you so much, Chief Waddell. Welcome back. You did a great job today, and thank you for giving that backstory because I was kind of lost. I had to do a search in my email. I don't even remember that email, but you all right. All right, so we're going to move right along to human resources, and we have Mr. McDermott that's going to provide our updates and our staff reports. We're going to begin with staff report H1 regarding separations. I don't think his mic is on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Reason for board consideration, a list of employees whose employment relationship with the district is or will be separated is submitted to the board each month. Facts and analysis, it is recommended that the Board of Education votes to accept the separation of employment of the following staff. Policy reference 3140 and 4140, resignation of professional and support staff. Strategic plan goal reference, personnel leadership. Benton Harbor area schools will recruit, hire, develop, and retain the best staff to improve student outcomes. So separation by form of resignation, we have Miss Amby Williams, payroll and benefit specialist, effective date 10/20/2023, followed by Miss Anna Billingsley, teacher in training, social studies here at the high school, effective date 11/9/2023. Recommended action that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to accept the separation of employment of the aforementioned staff.
Is there a motion to approve staff report H1? Is there a second or support?
Support.
The motion has been made by trustee Rocket Martin and supported by Secretary Triplett. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Ms. Biggs,
It says not yet.
That's correct. We have not received a completed interview as of yet.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so go ahead, Triplett.
Oh, there. I forgot what we talked about.
So I feel like I have some blame on this one. Get you out of it. Try to get you out of the safe experience. So to answer your question, we have not received a completed exit interview as of yet.
It's a liar. All right. Secretary Triplett, please call the vote. Trustee Gavin.
It saddens me to see this. It really saddens me to see this name. To see this here. My question is, what date, and I know it's not here, when these people resign, how soon, what date do they get the exit interviews?
So as customary, if we receive, whatever day we receive that notice, normally we receive it via email. The goal is to respond within 24 hours. And they receive an acceptance letter from the Human Resources Department along with the exit interview attached for them to do it there. We also emphasize that it's free depending on the nature. We make it that the individual can fill out the form and send it back, or they choose on their exit day. There's usually some equipment that's being returned. We allow that we can complete it together in person. So we give it in that format so they can feel free, no pressure, write everything they want to communicate. And if they choose to make it available to the board, just designate that. But we also do open it that on that exit date, when they return their equipment, that can be done with anyone from the HR department, most likely myself, but we will make ourselves available to have that final sit down.
So is that like a Google form?
Yes, there's it's a PDF form, and I can make sure that the board has access to see a copy of what that looks like. But it's a questionnaire form, set of standard questions on what probably led up to this process. But yes, I can share that with make sure the superintendent shares it with the board so everybody can see what those questions look like.
So it's a PDF, it's not a Google form.
No, it's not a Google form.
So they're filling it out on paper?
It's a fillable PDF. Thank you, Paul.
It's a fillable PDF.
Correct.
Okay, and so the process is they resign, they receive an acceptance of their resignation along with an exit interview request at the same time that they resign.
Yes.
And they can turn that in.
Choose to fill it out at their own time, or when they schedule that time to return equipment, fobs, any district issued equipment, we can sit down and complete it in person. Some people prefer, depending on the nature of the leave, to just put it in writing. Some people prefer to also have that face-to-face conversation. So we do allow for both, or either or.
Okay, thank you for that. So what I would like to recommend, if the HR committee would consider a Google form, just for expediency. PDFs, sometimes people's electronics are not compatible and it's cumbersome. But if there's a Google form link, it's just a quick way to get that response back and to track that information for the exit interviews.
I agree. I fully support that. Vice President Boland.
So when we do get those forms, are they time stamped or dated?
There is a section where, yes, that is listed on there, the date that they completed it.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
All right, so if there's no other, Trustee Raquel Martin.
The other part of that is they have to choose to share. They may do an exit interview and choose not to send it to share it with anybody, or they may choose not to do it, or they may choose to do it and then share it. So the bottom line is up to the person who is doing the exit interview, whether or not we'll get a copy of it.
That is correct.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, I will ask the Secretary Triplett, please call the vote for staff report H1.
President Robinson.
Yes.
Vice President Bowen.
No.
President. He threw me off. Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rocket Martin.
Yes.
Trustee Gavin.
No.
No.
Said no.
Said no.
3-2.
The motion passed. It was 3-2, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. We're going to proceed to staff report H2. Before we do, I would like to say I have no idea how I fell.
That book,
I am slightly injured, so I hope the district has some good insurance. And if anyone chooses to make that moment go viral, I will be looking for a portion of the proceeds.
my foot, you fell on my foot.
Marvin, Mr. McDermott, you may proceed. It's okay to laugh. I'm laughing.
All right, well, trying to get it right.
I want to laugh. No disrespect will be received if you laugh.
I just won't do it in the mic. Staff report H2. Employment of staff. So submitting for board consideration to approve the employment of staff in accordance with the revised school code and other general laws of Michigan. Facts and analysis. It is recommended that the board approve the superintendent's recommendation for the hire of the following personnel. Policy reference 3120 and 4120, employment of professional and support staff. Strategic goal plan reference, personnel leadership. Benton Harbor area schools will recruit, hire, develop, and retain the best staff to improve student outcomes. Recommendation for hire, Ms. Helen Acitello as a teacher in training at FPE, teaching 5th grade. Recommended action that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the employment of the aforementioned staff.
Is there a motion to approve staff report H2?
So moved.
Is there a second or support?
Support.
The motion has been made by trustee Rocket Martin and supported by trustee Gavin. Questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, Secretary Triplett, can you please call the vote?
I guess I had it.
You have a question?
I did.
You have the floor.
So this person is certified?
So I'm glad you asked the question because I wanted to clarify. We have got into the custom of relisting them as TNT's everyone, but just for a reference purpose, this individual would be entering the UTRP program partnered with Western. So they already hold a bachelor's, and we're in the process of getting them enrolled with Western. So they're not currently certified, but the pathway that they will be becoming certified is through their partnership with Western.
Yeah, I was just looking here at this this resume, and I don't see any. I don't see any places where
A lot of our, if I may, a lot of our TNT candidates are associated with our district for a period of time, most likely in the classroom. And through that experience, they were either recommended by their building principal or showed interest in advancing and remaining employed with the district. So now we look to bring them on board through one of our programs.
Okay, that's fine. I was just trying to read for understanding. It was a lot of gaps, but it's okay. So I'm good.
All right, Secretary Triplett, please call the vote.
President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowens,
Yes.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rocket Martin.
Yes.
Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, so we've moved through our business. We'll be very swift with the remainder of the agenda. For old business, we had a board retreat. Had tasked trustee Bowens with coming up with an agenda and considering some dates. But then I realized that we're at the last bit of the year. We have our holidays and Christmas and things of that nature. So I would actually like to propose that the board consider doing a retreat in January versus doing it during our holiday season. I just wanted to see if there was any opposition to that. All right, hearing none, we'll plan our retreat for January. For new business, superintendent evaluation. I just wanted to put this on everyone's radar. We've standard done our evaluations, I think, in the period of December. One of the things that we realized, and I'm going to dig into it a little deeper and then follow up with the board, is that we do have the opportunity and the right to extend our evaluation period. So, for example, being that Dr. Buss was just made the official superintendent in July, but contract finalized in October, we could extend the evaluation period through
January.
through, further than that. Was it April who said you have to have it done? Raquel Martin, were you in there with me?
Yeah.
I think it was April. You have to have a score provided in no, it was June.
The system by June.
By June, by the end of the year. So we could potentially, instead of doing a evaluation in the month of December, we could do a touch base in the month of December and make his evaluation required by the end of the year, looking at the full school year and scope of his work. It's something that's an option. So I just wanted to bring that to the board as something that we learned, but I am going to dig further into what that would look like and then come back and give you guys the information so we can finalize whether we want to proceed in December or consider an extended evaluation period. So I just didn't want to come out of anywhere with the data or the information. I wanted to kind of pre-message it that I'm digging deeper into it. Is something that we learned at MASB this past weekend. And then the next topic, I did want some feedback at this time. We've primarily done our organizational meeting within the first meeting, official board meeting of the month in January. I wanted to pose it to the board to see if that's a trend that you guys want to continue to do, just encompass them within that meeting, do both in one, or do we want to set the organizational meeting aside and make it its own meeting? And I did want input from the board on that.
I think it should be set aside because there's a lot of work that needs to take place in that organizational meeting.
Okay.
So it would be because I thought we were going to revisit also looking at committee as a whole and how we need to move forward, because it's a lot of things that we're doing, but it's a lot of things that we need to get done. And I think that we're mature enough now as a board to be able to, on the front end, be tough and come in and really close and then take care of the business at the other meeting. I think that we kind of like got a rhythm to a certain degree. So that's just something to take into consideration. As far as the superintendent's evaluation, I would like to say if that is possible, then in December, we need to do the annual. That would be 3 months, September, October,
You mean the
November,
checkpoint?
December. Yeah, checkpoint.
Mhm.
Because really, if he got hired in October, if he got hired in November, and that evaluation date is December, you still have to get evaluated even based on the previous superintendent's disposition and stuff like that. So if that is the case, I think that would be great, because we need to do our part where we've met with him and do it every 3 months. If we're doing it this will give us 3 months. We meet with him in January, got 3 months, we meet with him in April, and then we go to the evaluation. So I think that would be a good idea.
And the class that we were in it was really a training. I can't think of the name, but it was based on the team of 8 and how to work effectively with your superintendent and how to support them. And so evaluation was just one of those topics. And it was a question that I asked. And so I don't have the response tangibly in writing, and I prefer to have that so I know what that looks like and can send it to the board. But I just didn't want you all to think that I was making a decision to change the schedule on my own. It was just something that we learned was feasible, so I'll do further research. Does anyone disagree with separating the organizational meeting from the standard business meeting? You have the floor. Right, it would just be organizational meeting only, and then we would have the official business meeting as a separate meeting. Okay, so we'll plan to do so. I have to look at the January calendar. I wanted to take a look at that early. I know we could have discussed it in December, but I want us to kind of hit the ground running in 2024 and know exactly what it is that we're walking into. We have a fresh start with our district with the debt relief. And so I wanted us to be able to hit the ground as efficient and as effective as possible in January. So I'm kind of doing some of that legwork ahead of time, so we already know what things are looking like for next year. And then also keeping in mind, part of your organizational meeting is going to be looking at your board officers, your banks you're looking at, your lawyers, whether we want to continue with our lawyers, which is a conversation that you all have mentioned before. Things of those types of things will also be considering, and I'm going to inquire whether or not the district wants to continue its association with MASB. Not that I think we don't, but I know that there's been some conversation at the table as it relates to MESB and the trainings and things like that. So there'll be a couple different things that may be on there that we haven't determined before, because I want to make sure that we're not just doing business as standard, but actually moving in a way that the entire board agrees with. So I will kind of do the legwork on prepping what the agenda looks like for that. And then once we get to the organizational meeting, officers will be determined in that meeting. And then that will give us an opportunity for the board as it stands or elected officials after that organizational meeting to be able to then prep and prepare to run the meeting, that following business meeting. All right. So next we have open public comment. Is there anyone? Oh, you have the floor.
I was wondering if under new business, at some point we can add disciplinary committee. I know that we're going to be looking at the policy, but the way it sits, we've never even met, and discipline is a major issue. So I'm just, wondering if that's something that we can address, if the disciplinary committee can meet, even if it's not on a expulsion hearing. Like, I'm wondering if that's something that we can do.
So you can definitely do that. I don't think you all have ever met to even select the chair of the committee. So you definitely need to have a meeting. It's up to you guys if you want to do it in November. I think is it Doyle, Gavin, and Triplett? One of you all are alternate because the policy calls for 2 board members, and then the rest of that committee is essentially the staff and I believe a parent. So the committee is not fully us, but as it relates to the Board of Education, you all are more than welcome to meet. And then Dr. Bus can give you all an update on what is taking place as it relates to disciplinary issues in the district at large. So if you guys want to coordinate on a time that works best for you in November, that's perfectly fine with me. You don't need my approval to meet. Secretary Triplett.
I'd like for a chairman of our policy committee to go back and look at, and we vote on in December, to go back to our old structure as it relates to expulsion, where it goes from the school. The school gives the recommendation to the superintendent. Superintendent review and make sure that everything has been done properly, and the board, it comes before 3 board members. We determine who is expelled from our school district. And that's the way we have operated forever. Dr. Townsend came and said something and did something, and everybody said, okay. I did not. I don't think that
was rare.
No, it wasn't in the policy. And our policy was, you've been here for 40 years.
So what I'm gonna, so that we can, we are getting off track.
But I wasn't.
I know. And so that's what I'm gonna ask Trustee Rockette Martin. I'm gonna give you one last reminder to not make the side comments during other people's comments. And I know you mean no harm, but you make it a habit of doing
She provoked you over here to say, then you flow up and she said real something.
I can have it.
Think that
you have the floor.
Not when you were principal, we were principal. And we wanted to bring recommendation for students to be expelled from our school. We had to prepare the packet and take it to the superintendent. Superintendent brought it to the board. The board made the decision as to how that goes, who's going to be expelled from the school, not the superintendent. It was 3 board members that was on that committee and an alternate.
All right, so we're gonna proceed. So
You don't remember?
policy committee has already, I think in our last meeting, even though I'm an alternate, I'm sorry, I haven't given anyone the floor at this particular time. I'm an alternate of the committee, and I've stepped up in that capacity to assist because Vice President Bowens has a lot that he's working on. And so sometimes he may not be available between work and his nonprofit. So in the event that Vice President Bowens is unable to attend a meeting, I volunteered as the alternate and asked that the remainder of the committee just shoot me a quick text and let me know they need me to hop on. But we did, I think we've placed that on the agenda for this meeting for this month.
It is.
We'll be reviewing it. You have the floor.
I guess what concerns me is that we're called the disciplinary committee, but we're brought in so late that,
Right.
we haven't set any goals. We don't, have any direction it would be great if we would have some goals and maybe even possibly some other things that we are addressing besides just expulsions. It's an important issue, and I feel like there's some gaps there. So we'd love to work with the committee and talk about what's possible.
Sound like you're volunteering to be the chair, but I'll let your committee
That's okay.
determine that. Okay, so we're gonna proceed. Is there anyone here for open public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to superintendent announcements and comments, Dr. Butts.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to give another shout out to our legislators for the debt forgiveness. Looking forward to the hard work and the spirited debates in the committees that we have coming up in reference to the different policies and the HR committee, curriculum committee, all the committees. We are having the peer mediation guidelines and protocols being worked on. The president and I and her alternate Treasurer Creighton and I have been to several township meetings, getting really good feedback, and me reaching out and them reaching out to ask for one-on-ones with me and sharing their ideas to help out. The one-on-ones that I've been doing with the teachers again has provided really positive insight. Positive insight. What I'm passing down to you is one of our online teachers that's through CAPE. One of her students was granted a wish from the Make-A-Wish Foundation that sent she and her family down to Florida to Disney World. And on her way, she had such admiration for her teacher. She wanted to stop and see her. So this child left from Michigan on her way to Florida and stopped in Georgia at this teacher's house, gave her a gift card and flowers. So I think that's something to be commended, to show that our staff is truly committed to our students, whether they're online or in public. You heard about the RFP for the track, and we're working on those for the gym floors at the middle and high school as well. Glad to announce that you guys have the new computers and name tags. We're glad to make sure that you got an update. You also have T-shirts from the teaching and learning team. So I think, Madam President, you don't want to have received yours yet. Everybody else has gotten theirs.
I was wondering.
I will make sure that you get yours before you leave. I've already met with the brick mason as part of our facilities committee and looking towards securing those buildings what Mr. Triplett was speaking of earlier. And we'll have an update at the next meeting on the next phase.
Thank you. Thank you for your update. Trustee Rocket Martin. It's your closing comment. Can you please speak into the mic?
Yes. I would like to, if we could put this on as new business or whatever, the math literacy. We do a lot in reading, and I understand that, but also math is on that my step also. And we have to make those gains in math just like we have to make them in reading. So I would like to know what we're doing for our math literacy to improve that. Also, Dr. Butts and I attended the Berrien and Cass County Associated meeting. It was very informative and nice to mingle with the other superintendents and other board members. In the future, I would hope if we do this again, that more of our board members will come and be able to attend. I also came to the high school Monday for the Step Africa program. I was impressed with the students. It was in the PAC around 11:30. They were respectful to the audience. They were respectful to the administration. They were respectful to each other. And they were very responsive and being a part of that program for Step Africa. Let's see, be careful. I have some other things, but I'll put those in committee. So, overall, I'm thanking everybody for the time that they put in and done the work and are doing the work. And I also like to thank my colleagues and those of us that attended MASB. My husband was under the impression that was a vacation. I say, you've got to be kidding me. Long hours of classes, long hours of commitment, but well worth it to receive the information that we got. And so I'm looking forward to using that information and possibly implementing some of those things that are good for our district. With that comment, that's it.
Thank you. Trustee Gavin.
Thank you, President Robinson. I want to say that this past MASB leadership conference was the best that I've ever attended. I noticed a shift in their conversation. I noticed a shift in their training. I noticed a focus on equity and making sure that every child received what they needed and having a sense of urgency about that and thinking outside of the box and trying to understand what they're going through and uplifting student voice. And so everything they said is like resonated with me in every way. And so I asked around and I heard that they're getting some new leadership. And so I'm super excited about the possibilities of that. And in that class, and one of the classes that we attended, I think it was Ypsilanti or Pawnee, I can't remember which. Ypsilanti. They talked about, all of the funding and all of the partnership opportunities that are available when you operate with an equity lens. And I believe that that's something that we really could revisit as a district. Not saying we haven't at all, but like really take a look at, what's the possibility if we really start standing up for ourselves and looking at ways that we can receive some education reparations for the things that we've endured as a district. We deserve it. Our kids deserve it. And, just looking at the debt being forgiven, there was a time when, people thought that was crazy. How dare you ask for that? They talk about closing your schools, you telling them to forgive the debt and keep your school open. Yes, we have the right to do that because education is our number one civil rights, issue for our community. And so I just want to leave us by saying that, it's possible when we put our kids first, and it doesn't have to be me or you. It could be, how can we incorporate your idea and my idea and this other person's idea to try to make things work? I think it's possible if we, just look at, I'm going to finish up real quick. If we don't take criticism as an attack and we take it as a way to help make us better. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gavin. Secretary Triplett.
Yeah, I enjoyed the MASB conference. I think I'm in I think I'm in a different place now just in my life. In particular, since my brother passed, and the things that he shared with me, where it was just very important, just as a little brother, how he talked about the importance of being real and accountability. I've just noticed that people struggle with it. It's not just here. People struggle with truth. But in the interim, our kids are being dogged. I do not plan to continue to have my emphasis and focus on grown people issues and ideas and thought. I know it's my experience here as an administrator that it was just so much stuff at the top and so much stuff with adult that in the middle of the year, by the time I got to March or April, I had never gotten to my kids. I'm done with all of that. Benton Harbor kids deserve our undivided attention. It's just that simple for me. So it doesn't matter how people take it. Because what I'm going to do, I'm going to fight for Benton Harbor students. It doesn't matter who you are. I don't want you to take it personal. As I get ready to close, I think that we, as a community, have been very kind to people. We have given people opportunities that they wouldn't have ever had in other spaces and places. And that's one thing for sure. We were talking about this on our way home, not talking about our district or any individual, but this community has given so many people an opportunity to grow, move on, spaces, places. And when it's all said and done, these people go their different ways and what have you. And we're here with our kids. We're here with our community. We're here with our people. And until we unite and people see what this is really about, because I am not going to teach anybody how to treat me. Nobody. I'm not going to do it. So I wish the best for Benton Harbor area schools, to our administration. I wish you all the very, very best. I'm serious. I do. To our board, we're all connected here. And it's time for us to put our kids first. It's time for us to put our community first. And I said that about the social media, and I've never been so professionally offended in my entire life with some of the things that I have seen. And I have heard people feeling comfortable enough to say it in my face, comfortable enough to say it to our community, and comfortable enough to say it about our kids. And stand strong in their resolve. So I meant it. I don't apologize for what was said, how it was said. I want it to be understood moving forward. Moving forward. If it ain't about our kids, I'll call it out. Like it or not, I'll take that chance. For Benton Harbor. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Triplett. Vice President Bowens.
In the words of Kanye West, I'm a human being. I've got opinions. I'm not always right. I'm not always on time. I don't always say things in the proper way, but my intentions are extremely pure. Good night.
Thank you. So I would like to say it's been a lovely evening. I think we had a great meeting, even though it was long. There was a lot that was accomplished and a lot was celebrated up front. And I really wanted us to take an opportunity to, if I could ask that everyone to my left, please not interrupt my comment. Thank you. Our meeting was a little heavy today, but it wasn't because of the business that we needed to handle. It was because of the positive presentations and the hearing from Representative Andrews. And I thought all of those were necessary. We don't celebrate the good enough in our meetings. So it was extremely meaningful to be able to do that. I just want to say I appreciate every member of this Board of Education, as well as all of our administrative staff and all Benton Harbor area school staff, and those who are technically EDGE staff but placed with us, for your efforts that you make. Guys, I know we're at the end of the meeting, but we're still technically in the meeting. Just be patient with me, please. I appreciate everyone. And I'm trying to ensure that Benton Harbor area schools is able to get turned around fully. so that we can be the best that we can be. And I want everyone to know that they can trust me as their president, even if they're coming to me with an opinion that they think I disagree with. I truly value every voice. So I'm going to be looking at my schedule and trying to schedule some one-on-ones myself with everybody to ensure that we can touch base prior to the month of December.
Yeah.
However, it's going to be later this month because I'm fried with the tour that Dr. Bus and I went to, as well as the conference. I have been busy every night and during lunch hour, attempting to support him. And I want to thank Treasurer Creighton for attending Wednesday evening so that myself and Trustee Rockette Martin could get on the road. And that being said, I have nothing else to say. I'm tired. I'm a little bit sore. And I'd like to go ahead and get this thing. Yeah, I'm gonna keep saying I think it's something wrong with my neck. At this particular time, I'll ask if there's a motion to adjourn.
I put a motion on the floor to adjourn.
Is there a second or support? The motion has been made by Trustee Bowens and supported by Vice President Bowens, supported by Trustee Gavin. Questions, comments, and concerns? Hearing none. Secretary Triplett, please call the vote.
I hear the concern.
No. Secretary Triplett, please call the vote.
Parliamentary. President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowen. Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rockette Martin,
Yes.
Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
motion carried. Madam
Meeting
President.
adjourned officially at 9:48 p.m.